Summit Bechtel Reserve in Glen Jean, West Virginia for the 2019 Spartan North American Championships. After the last two brutal mountain races, this perfectly balanced 13-mile beast course will be a welcome change of pace for these athletes. I'm David Magida, along with Kevin Donahue. And Kevin, Ryan Atkins dominated the U.S. National Series this year, but should he be considered the favorite in this race today?
Robert Killian is the two-time defending champion. So if men want to be the champ, they're going to have to beat the champ. The contenders capable of doing that today are the three Ryans, who are all ready to take his throne.
Now, Lindsay Webster tracked down Nicole Mericle over the course of the last few races of the season, but those were in the mountains. Now today, this is more of a level playing field. How do you expect this race to play out? And of course, who else might be a contender?
Well, the field may be a little bit more level, but that field just got a whole lot deeper. Rebecca Hammond is back. After missing the majority of the season due to an Achilles injury, she's eager to repeat that masterful breakthrough performance that she had here last year. But we cannot underestimate Canadian Faye Stenning, who's starting to peak at exactly the right time.
Well, the course, the terrain itself, may be the biggest X factor on the day. And for more on that, the third member of our broadcast team, Steve Hammond.
Well, what an amazing morning here. This course is absolutely epic. This course has everything. We've got 4 carriages, we've got a load of elevation gain thrown in there as well. It is a beautiful, eclectic mix of all the last races that we've seen so far, and it brings it all together. If you're not ready for this race, it will definitely expose your weaknesses. This is going to be a fantastic race. I can't wait.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. And this is an incredible course, the third year that we're running the North American Championships here in Glen Jean, West Virginia. And here, your starting line, the best in the biz. Kev, take us through this course.
Well, as you can see, tremendous undulating terrain through all these foresty areas, and the gauntlet key shows you how extreme these obstacles are going to be in both physicality and also concentration.
Well, we mentioned West Virginia, and you will find it all in West Virginia, a place full of mystery, wonder, and surprise. From outdoor recreation to culture and history, our wild and rugged mountains hold some of the East Coast's best-kept secrets. Visitors flock to New River Gorge for incredible outdoor adventures, including epic whitewater rafting, some of the region's best rock climbing, and each step away from the churn and burn of the daily routine is a step closer to the place you belong, West Virginia. Book your trip today at wvtourism.com. And just like that, the athletes are off. A fast start to be expected as they all churn their way towards this really quick uphill that they're going to face. They want to get into it first.
And faster than I've ever seen him, Robert Killian, the two-time defending champion, is taking it out hot over guys like Ryan Woods, who are usually the pace setter.
Now, you're going to see a big battle between Robert Killian and, of course, all the Ryans, but Ryan Atkins in particular. He has finished second here a couple times, and he has wanted the win at this venue. He won the series this year, and this would be the icing on the cake for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many athletes here. I mean, Ryan Atkins, obviously, he's won the National Series. Couldn't he go after the trifecta of winning the North American Championship and also threatening for the Tahoe World Championship, which he's come in second so many times but has never won?
4 times second place finisher, always the bridesmaid, and maybe this is the year that things change. He's really got the tools to put it all together. But it starts with a race today at the North American Championships here from Glen Jean, West Virginia. And, of course, what you're going to expect to see besides Robert Killian, Ryan Kempson wants to prove that this is an ideal course for him, and he's ready to make his mark. And you have Ryan Woods, who's had a tough year.
Ryan Woods, you could say that his entire national series was a dumpster fire. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But the slate is clear. This race is singular to itself. It happens once a year. It's the best athlete from North America, and he has a chance to turn the page and make his mark here today.
Well, you're looking at Ryan Atkins sitting here in the lead right there. With just behind him, that's Ryan Kent. And you'll see the two of them making their moves. They're in second and third respectively right now, but they will be up near the front of the leaderboard, and that is Nick Riker right there as well, followed, of course, by Ryan Kempson, and then Brian Gawiski sitting there in 6th position as well.
Yeah, Brian Gawiski in the orange shorts, and there is the two-time defending champion, bald head with blue shoes, Robert Killian, who's followed closely behind by Ryan Woods, and the tall athlete right there is VJ Jones, who's taking a stab at a beast. He normally does not do well at these distances, but he's been doing well all year progressively. Let's see what he has today.
He's been working on his long-distance running, specifically told us that he was going to be doing a lot of 3-hour long training runs to prepare for this. And it's amazing because he's running next to Robert Killian and Ryan Woods, two men who are about twice his age.
Exactly. As well as many other athletes, again, from around North America. It's Canada, the USA, and Mexico are the three major countries that are making up the majority of the athletes in this race. So there's so many fabulous athletes from a lot of those regions that we haven't seen because they've been running in the Canadian National Series and in the Mexico National Series.
Now, a good lesson for those at home who are new to this sport is you'll see that there's an athlete out in front taking off at a very high speed, and the rest of the contenders, they're not worried about him. They're going to run the race against each other. They know who they're concerned with. They know who they need to mark and who they need to watch. And if you're going to let somebody go out fast like this, you can let them fizzle out. It's a long day ahead.
An athlete like this, we don't know what their ability is. He could be one of the fastest, most enduring people out there, but we just don't know. But these are athletes who have seen everybody in the world. They have tremendous poise, and like you said, they're not going to worry about someone taking it out that hot at a 13-plus mile race.
So what you're seeing is the class of the field is already starting to move into about a group of 6 as Ryan Atkins on the lead of it with VJ Jones, Ryan Kent, Ryan Woods, Ryan Kempson, all the Ryans crammed in there behind, and they're already starting to close and move back into the front where they should be.
In the long-legged tights there, almost stumbling, that is Ryan Atkins, followed closely behind by Ryan Kent with the man bun. If you could notice, this is a great shot of Ryan Atkins' stride. He is a man who has, for a person who is about 5'10", he could sit on his brother-in-law's bicycle and touch the pedals. His brother-in-law is 6'4". He has tremendously long legs for a person of his height. It allows him to cover so much ground so quickly. As you see, you called it. Ryan Kent and Ryan Atkins have already caught up to that other athlete.
Now it's funny. It's a long legs, short torso kind of thing that it's really effective for a lot of runners in terms of like a quality build for a distance runner. And here we've already hit the monkey bars. You can see Ryan Kempson and VJ Jones just a hair behind, as well as I believe that's Ryan Woods.
And this is so many people hitting the monkey bars at one time. It almost looks like something after the show Deadliest Catch with all the crabs in a cage, just arms and legs everywhere.
So Ryan Atkins got in and out of that way faster than everybody else, and he already has about a 6-second gap on the rest of the field. Now everybody's going to try and make their move back into things, and that's Brian Gawiski, VJ Jones, and up ahead, again, that lead pack of all the Ryans.
There you see Brian Gawiski there in the orange shorts. He and Ryan Woods, as well as Ryan Kempson, live in environments that are very similar to this. They're very forestry. There's lots of bushes. It's a lot of undulating terrain with wet rocks, very rooty, lots of bushes, vines, things that could trip you up. They're used to running in terrain like this, as you could see Ryan Atkins and Ryan Kent running through the woods. It is trees that are popping up everywhere, undulating footing, very difficult terrain, and they navigate that all the time.
So one of the things that I think it's important to note is Ryan Kent has had a rough season as well, and his last couple of races have not worked out the way he's wanted. Particularly Big Bear did not go the way he wanted, and Utah. So some of these mountain races have not gone his way. He loves this course. He's finished second here twice in West Virginia, and it really fits his skill set. Just enough climbing, just enough length, and it takes a powerful stride to run well here, so he loves this course.
He ran college cross country about 30 minutes from here, so he is very familiar with this terrain and not only this venue.
Well, as you can see, they're passing the first water stop. A couple of the athletes actually taking the water. One thing of note, I think, as we saw one athlete turn back, is the cup has to go into the trash can when you finish. You can't just litter it on the course. Sometimes penalties are assessed for that sort of thing. So, as the athletes make their way through this next little section, the next series of obstacles that they'll be approaching includes the 8-foot box. That can cause a little bit of issue for some of them.
And the Stairway to Sparta also is a little bit different. It's a jump up to some rock climbing grips that make it a lot more difficult to climb up, and it's really going to test the upper body, considering that's coupled with that 8-foot box.
The jump itself for each of those moves, very anaerobic, and so when you're running very hard, it can actually cause a little bit of cramping, a little bit of seizing up in the calves. Now, it's pretty early in the race, so we're unlikely to see that, but you are going to see possibly a few little gaps forming as a result of the difficulty of that obstacle in terms of just completing it.
We're getting a great idea as we watch that one athlete slip as they're going up this very wet, grassy hill, and they're all on top of each other as they're approaching the Olympus right now, which is actually pretty wet.
Yeah, and you're going to see a lot of athletes posting up on their knees on this as they go across Olympus. Some will do it on their toes, but it's a little slick today. So you see like Robert Killian right now on his knees working his way across it just to be safe, just to not risk letting his toes slip and drag on the ground.
It takes a little longer as Brian Gwiski and Ryan Woods, if you could see, he's slipping really, really bad. If he went a little bit more, he would have been down for the count with 30 burpees. It was a safe move, but if you don't get that perpendicular pressure from your knees directly into that wall, that's what happens. You slip down, and it really taxes the upper body.
So that was Brian Gwiski that you saw, one of the better runners from the North Carolina area. So similar terrain profiles there. He runs very well at the Asheville course, which I say is one of the more comparable courses to this race course that we're at today. And now they're going to have a little bit of open stretch where they can fly a little bit. So the speed guys will take their shot before we head into the trails.
There's been so much fast running early in this race. If you do not keep up with this lead pack, you are going to get dropped really fast, and you will never see them again because they are running so quickly and setting a fast pace for a race this long.
And you can see right now, Ryan Kempson, we know that he loves the speed. We said this is an ideal course for him. He can climb better than he ever has before, but he also has built that endurance that he didn't have in years past in that 10, 12, 15-mile range that he just didn't possess. And now you can see him starting to close on Ryan Atkins. He's going to make this thing a race today.
And it's just a few of the things that are just different from Spartan from other races and other sports. You see how the athletes are running, and there was that one tree branch that was all on their face, and they're all hitting it, trying to swat it away. If you don't get that correctly, that branch could hit you in the face, KO your eye for the rest of the race, and could really cause you problems. So they're doing stuff like that in the woods where that is happening left and right every second.
Well, Robert Killian knows a little something about rugged terrain from his days in Ranger School.
Yeah, so I think my military background does lend to the type of racing that I specifically do. We do a lot of orienteering through thick brush. You know, you're having to go through, terrain that, you don't want to be seen. So it's almost like the worst terrain because that's not where people are going to, typically tend to travel. So you don't want to be seen. You want to kind of go through the worst stuff. So, yeah, I do think that military background gives me a little bit of an advantage, and I'll take everything I can get. At 37, I'm out here competing against 20-year-olds trying to battle those guys off. But hey, the better the competition, the better you feel at the end of the day when you come out on top.
Well, Robert Killian, of course, the winner of the Best Ranger competition just a couple years ago, and always interested in continuing to train for it, and he's been actually coaching other athletes for that competition. One of the most knowledgeable military experts, not just in the field, but really in the world.
And as he's running this race right now, he's as a two-time defending champion. He's taught a lot of these guys about grit. He's taught a lot of these guys about patience. He's taught them a lot about heart. And they know that if they're going to take it to him today and take this title away from him, they're going to have to leave it all out there on the course.
Well, again, here's Ryan Atkins in first place right now, leading the way and through the second mile of the North American Championships here in Glen Jean, West Virginia. This is a big race, and right now you're starting to see the creme de la creme kind of rising to the top, but Nick Riker is one of the guys that I think we're a little surprised to see up there. He said he's in the best shape of his life, and we've seen him have a very strong year. But this is an incredibly quick start for him, so we'll see if he can continue that.
And when we're talking about West Virginia, you're thinking about mountaineers, you're thinking about pioneers, and that's what these athletes are having to do right now. They're having to navigate through all this crazy terrain, wet leaves everywhere that are disguising holes in the ground, moss that the second you step on it could slide out from under your foot and put you down. You're stepping over logs that are super slick, thorns, vines that could pop up and get you. They're navigating this stuff just as you see it for almost the entire 13 miles.
It's going to be nasty. So through the technical portions of this course, there's times you're going to have to duck under branches like you just saw Atkins do.
Right into a bear crawl to get under that.
There's times that you're going to see them slipping and sliding because the leaves and the loose earth are just giving away. And, of course, there's a lot of trip hazards out here. One of the more impressive things is not just the folks who are running this race, of course, but the cameramen who are working their way through this without even being able to look at the ground and check for their surfaces. They're just having to feel this course out at these high tempos. Some of the best trail runners that we have out here trying to keep pace with these incredible athletes.
Yeah, that's not handy drone work. That is a human being carrying a camera following all these athletes. And what you could also notice is because they're all kind of picking the same line, a lot of these athletes are getting caught behind each other. They're being forced maybe to slow down in spots they weren't, and that allows athletes like Woods and Atkins to break away just a little bit right here.
Well, Ryan Woods has very, very quickly gained on Ryan Atkins, and he's going to want to put pressure on him. And right behind him, Ryan Kempson. So you have 3 Ryans in the top 3, and you know Ryan Kent is not far behind either. He loves this terrain, as we mentioned before. Right now, we have a really solid, tight group in that lead pack.
If you notice those little pouches that were on the back of Ryan Woods and that blue one that was on the back of Ryan Kempson, those are vests, but there's also little nutrition packs, as Robert Killian just blasted his way up into second place.
That was a really nice pass. I think he's trying to make a statement with that one right there as well. He's moving all the way into first position. He loves to attack the hills. He's chosen a spot that he wants to make a statement about how this race is going to play out.
And there's that blue pack. So if you can see it's bouncing up and down, it's kind of full. Ryan Kempson has nutrition in there. So nutrition gels, maybe a bar, maybe a little bit of liquid that he could go to when he needs it. As we're now seeing the Stairway to Sparta with these rock climbing grips.
Yeah, so there's a jump, and then, of course, you got to nail that grip, a few couple climbs where you don't really get to use the footholds until you're high enough, and then up the stairway.
And you're getting that grip. To nail that grip right, you're hitting your knees up against those boards. Those aren't padded. Those are 2x4s that your knees are smacking against. That kind of wear and tear kind of builds up throughout the course of a race, and the more they have to do this, the more it's going to slow them down. As that one athlete, as you can see, slipping as he goes over.
So here is the 8-foot box, and what you're going to see here is a couple athletes get through it quick, and a couple athletes will struggle. The wall material itself is very slick, so the athletes with really strong upper bodies will clear it easily just by powering themselves up. But some of them might get jammed up here at this spot because they just don't have the fluid climbing ability there. The other thing I'd like to point out is that we've seen athletes injure themselves in the 8-foot box. Mark Gadet, for example, who is in this race, dislocated his shoulder on this obstacle in Asheville. So kind of a cautious play for some of them to get up and over it.
Robert Killian actually struggled with that obstacle in Utah earlier this year and got through it relatively easier there. So it found like he figured out how to do it and made the adjustment. The hard part is there's no lip for you to grab exactly at the top. You pull on a rope. It's hard to get your hands under that rope when your weight is on it. And then you have to reach all the way over to get a bar. And it seems like he executed it very well.
Well, that was Chase Group 2 that you saw right there with Aaron Newell, VJ Jones, and Mark Batres as well. Batres, of course, a great marathoner running in the low 220s. Aaron Newell, an excellent mountain runner and rock climber.
And that was just about mile 2. So the next obstacle they're going to be approaching is going to be another grip strength obstacle. And so these guys need to kind of shake out those arms a little bit. But Robert Killian right now, our 2-time defending champion at the Spartan North American Championship right here. He is running down Ryan Atkins and trying to maintain contact with a very fast runner in a very flat area.
So the North American Championship defending champ, 2 years running, chasing the National Series champion. Pretty
and
interesting.
Last year's National Series champion, Ryan Woods right there, being chased again with the blue pouch, and Ryan Kempson, who won the first race of the National Series this year, is having his best year ever as the camera just got smacked with those branches.
It's Robert and the Ryans right now. And right here, this doesn't look like it, but this is actually a bit of a descent. These guys are opening up. You saw a nice pass right there from Kempson. Ryan Woods seems to be holding back a little bit on the descent, as that's now Ryan Kent moving into the mix as well. Woods is going to try and hammer people on the uphills, and you're going to see a pass happen right here, just past Kempson as soon as we started the climb again.
It's very rare to see jockeying this much, this early in a race with this many great athletes. And the terrain is really enforcing it, as Ryan Woods had just passed Killian to push up into Ryan Atkins' backside.
This is very aggressive behavior from each of these athletes. Each of them is really trying to take some psychological blows towards some of their opponents right here, because normally in this situation you could fall in line, be efficient, know that you have 11 miles left in this race. There's no need to be throwing jabs at one another as you're going by, trying to pick up a space here or there. And really there's nothing more that can be said about it than it's just psychological attacks on one another, trying to break each other's confidence a little bit.
In the world of obstacle course racing, this is like a great Rocky fight. This is like Rocky and Apollo Creed going back and forth, just throwing haymakers. In the world of OCR, this is exactly what that looks like.
I mean, we have a long way ahead of us still. And there's Mark Gadet, who we mentioned before, with his shoulder wrapped up from that dislocation that he had just in Asheville a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, if you want to know what that tape actually does, it helps pull the skin back. It gives you a little bit more mobility, and it also helps bring a lot more fluid to those areas to help heal it, and a little support when he gets on those upper body grip strength obstacles.
You're looking at Robert Killian on the right, Ryan Kempson on the left, and just in front of them, you have Ryan Woods on the left, Ryan Atkins on the right. So the big four right now that we anticipated being in this mix with, I believe, Ryan Kent hot on their heels.
Yeah, he was about 20 seconds back when we saw him entering that one kind of straightaway through the grass. And I guarantee that he's maintaining some kind of contact, because there's no way you could let this pack break away and have a chance to run him down later.
Now, one of the things that's important to note is even though this race is only about 13 miles long, Spartan Beasts are basically marathon efforts. We talk about this frequently because of the combination of the intense terrain with the obstacles, as you see Forrest Booge right here. This combination taxes the body in a way that a marathon might, and in terms of the length of time you're running, you're pushing about 2 hours of time. An elite marathoner is running for about 2 hours. So these guys are going to need to be very careful with their pacing. You saw Ryan Kempson checking his watch earlier, probably to look at where he was pace-wise, how far along he is in the course. You're doing careful calculations throughout this race with your nutrition and with your pacing to make sure that you have enough in the tank to finish strong.
And for a more diminutive athlete just like there, as far as Booge, the cadence of his running that he has to put down, he's only about 5'3.5", 5'4". So for him to be able to keep up with guys like Atkins and Killian and Kent that are so long-limbed takes a huge effort by him.
Well, you know, there's two different kinds of styles. You have this open stride, these long-legged guys, and you have high-cadence runners. And both have their merits and have certain benefits in certain portions of the race. For example, shorter legs can often help you with climbing. So they each have an advantage. They each have different styles, but Forrest works with the tools he's got. So he's an incredible talent in his own right and was a great college wrestler, I believe.
He was tremendous. As we see Ryan Atkins and Ryan Woods taking their first sip of water in this race, they don't want to slow down and grab water, but you have to in a race this long, because if you don't do it now, you're going to regret it later.
There's a log carry coming up shortly once they make it out of the woods over here. That log carry will take them into the water a little bit as well. You're going to see it as they hit this clearing, actually. And
this is a beater right in front of us at about mile 3.
Mm-hmm. First, we got to get through beater, and the way beater is assembled for this particular race is each of those rotating bars, those beaters, it goes one beater to the next rather than into monkey bars. Some people think this is a harder setup. Some people think it's actually a little bit easier rhythm-wise.
When you grab that beater, kind of egg beater bar, it will propel you into the next one. That momentum helps you grab the next bar, but it also creates more force on your grip that could contribute to an easier chance of slipping. And those bars are very wet today with water dripping off of them.
So you can see there's no straight lines to take here. There's a lot of weaving, a lot of tree branches, a lot of stuff to jump over as well. It's a little bit dicey. You'll see some divots, a lot of mud, like deep mud. When you step in, you go ankle deep, shin deep. So many hazards out there on this course. Kind of keeps you from being able to run at maximum efficiency, maximum speed, and you're using a lot of energy.
What you were watching right there with those two men running through the woods is what really appeals to so many people about Spartan racing. It takes you back to being a child, just running with your pals in the woods, having a great time, creating games, like letting your imagination run wild. And they're able to do these now as professional athletes in a tremendously hard sport. But that's what appeals to people, is the fun of settings just like that.
So this is the lake I was talking about before. The log carry coming up right here is actually fairly long, and these are pretty big logs that you're going to see momentarily as some of the other top athletes making their way through beater.
And you could really see the momentum as it turns and spins, how far it propels them forward.
That's Mike Ferguson right there, I believe.
Now, this log carry is very interesting. They grab this big log. They could throw it on their back whatever way they want, but they're going to have to go into the water with this. They can't see what the footing is because the water is very murky. It's undulating. It's going to shift back and forth, and it's slanted. So their footing is crucial here, but they still need to move as fast as possible.
These are opportunities, one, to put some time between yourself and your opposition, but two, also just to catch your breath, because when you have an effort like this, which is more strength-based, there's a chance to slow things down, get your heart rate under control, let your legs flush out just a little bit. And some athletes are good after this. They feel better. Some, the taxing effort of carrying this log will actually slow them down and eliminate their running legs.
And what you're watching right now is Ryan Woods trying to pass a much better, heavier carrier in Ryan Atkins. He tried, Atkins surged on him. That is telling you a lot mentally about where Ryan Woods is right now. He's trying to attack on this race. He's seen Ryan Atkins, who is better at this obstacle than he is, and he is not backing down right now. And that says something about where he wants to be in this race.
What people don't realize, actually, is Ryan Woods is one of the best heavy carry athletes in the field, and he's been so for a long time. People think he's just more of a runner, but it's not accurate. In I believe, San Jose just a couple years ago, he had the fastest split on one of the hardest sandbag carries we've ever seen. He has the ability to run with weight, and he credits it to all the deadlifts he's been doing over the last couple years, something he never incorporated previously in his life.
And he just tried to make a move on Atkins right there, too.
He's duking it out. He's holding his own with Atkins on a heavy carry, which is a very, very hard thing to do.
He better be careful, though. If you notice, his hand was right in the front of that log, and it was starting to slip backwards. If he were to drop it right there, there is a risk that it could fall into the water, and that would be disaster for him because that log is so heavy, it might float away on him.
You know, you can see he's looking for an opening to make one last move, but you're going to see these guys come out of this at a very high speed. That's the objective right now. Drop that log, get up tempo, and go.
What's going to be important to see now is, did Ryan Woods expend too much energy trying to keep up with Atkins right there? If he can make a pass on Atkins or stay with him for the next half mile, be very, very, very not surprised if Ryan Woods takes the lead.
We also just watched two neat moves there. One by Ryan Atkins choosing his spot where Ryan Woods was not able to put his log down in an efficient place and had to seed the line to Atkins. You saw it again, Ryan Kempson stealing Robert Killian's line to dump his log as well, which resulted in him gaining a few seconds there.
This is an interesting race, too, because it's not like some of the Spartans we've seen all year. There's 2 added extra carries in this race, the log carry being one of them, and there is 2 sandbags. So they're getting 2 more times to have to put out that kind of effort in this race.
And again, Ryan Woods trying to drop the hammer on this run right now and drop Ryan Atkins, who knows he needs to stay in contact. As you see the women's start line, and of course the big name that's added to this field, Rebecca Hammond. Look for her to be a strong contender today, as well as face standing in addition to our usual suspects of Lindsay Webster and Nicole Mericle.
Rebecca Hammond is right there in the center with the black top and green wristband on her left wrist. And Nicole Mericle is with the orange shoes and the lighter gray top right out there in front. And in the blue top, just going over that hay bale there, was Faye Stenning, someone, again, who we cannot sleep on in this race.
Well, again, as usual, Nicole Mericle taking it out hot. You'll see Lindsay Webster sit back for the first mile or two, and then you're going to see her make her move as well.
Someone I'm really happy to see there is Ashley Heller is back on a Spartan course after rocking her ankle in Utah in the last National Series race, which basically put her out of the series, which she had fought so hard for all year to be in the top 10. Seems like she's healed up enough to compete today, and that's good for all of us because we all missed her out there.
You know, it was a tough thing to see her out there, and we didn't expect to see her come back so quick, but she's relentless. She's so tough, and she just decided this is her season, and she's going to take the risks medically to see if she has it in her to have a strong finish to the year.
She's got a torn tendon in the front of her ankle, and ironically enough, on that ankle, she has tattooed on it already, tenacity.
Yeah. Well, this is tenacity right here, because right now you're seeing a back-and-forth battle between Ryan Woods, who was last year's National Series champion, and Ryan Atkins, this year's National Series champion. And we mentioned before, Woods had a very tough year this year. He had a time penalty in the first race of the year when he had finished second. That cost him all the way down to 11th place, I think is where it pushed him back to. Second race of the year, he missed a spear a mile in and never got back to the leaders. And then from there, he injured his hamstring and missed a lot of training time moving forward. This is the first time we're seeing the real Ryan Woods that we've been wanting to see all year long. He still thinks he's a contender to win this race and the World Championships.
Throughout his career, he's had his issues. He's been very inconsistent, and there's been a lot of reasons because of that. Last year, he put it all together in the National Series and became the champion. This year, kind of inconsistent again. But what's great about this race is we've turned the page on all of that, and the season has started over for him. If he could throw down a great performance today, it's almost like the rest of that stuff never happened, and it makes this even sweeter.
I will say this, the National Series is a little bit like the regular season, and now we've hit the playoffs. This is where things really ratchet up. Prize money's huge for the National Series, and of course, it's big-time bragging rights and statement-making in terms of moving into Tahoe in people's minds, that psychological edge that you can gain.
Yeah, Bill Parcells is a great Giants coach who also coached the Cowboys and the Jets and the Patriots. He always says, you don't know what kind of team you have until December, until after Thanksgiving. And this is kind of our after Thanksgiving. We know who these guys are right now, and this is the time to prove it.
Well, this is a nice open stretch of running that the athletes are going to see here today. This is a chance to get a little bit of speed before we hit the dense trails. And Ryan Woods has made a little bit of move in that open speed section. He is now putting a small gap between himself and Ryan Atkins. And this is exactly what he wants, to control the tempo of this race today, to dictate the terms to everyone else.
Well, for Ryan Woods, it's going to come down to obstacle efficiency and completion, because today he has the wheels.
Again, somebody who likes to dictate the terms of the race early on. That's Nicole Mericle sitting in first position, and behind her, you'll see the rest of the field, which will include over the wall Rebecca Hammond and, of course, Lindsay Webster and Faye Stenning. Faye, who put together a great race and took third place over in Utah in the last race, finally hitting the podium in the National Series this year.
Getting a great shot of Rebecca Hammond right there. She just finished medical school at Harvard, and she exploded onto the OCR scene last year as Faye Stenning just made a move on her. But Rebecca, again, she had an Achilles injury early on, and Faye right there, who is running really strong, has struggled throughout the year, but she's gotten so much better and is ready to really throw down today.
And again, the return of Faye Stenning to form, but the return of Rebecca Hammond to action entirely. That Achilles injury really devastated her year. She started the first race of the year, and that's it. That's all we saw out of her. But this year, I think now she's starting to find her form again, starting to find her legs.
And there is Ariel Fitzgerald in the pink. She is a surprise athlete out here today from Canada. She is the Guinness World Record holder in the 50K and the 100K on a treadmill. She is a fantastic ultra athlete, and she's out here today with very little obstacle experience, but she has the wheels to make noise in this.
I mean, if you were surprised to maybe see her with Faye Stenning a little bit earlier, I think you're going to be impressed with how she's able to hold that tempo throughout the race today. She's going to be a major contender if she can get through obstacles.
To set records like that on a treadmill, you have to be very mentally strong, as Woods and Atkins are now monkeying through this very wet twister. And again, Ryan Woods, kudos to him, man. He's passed another grip strength test, as now the ladies all together on the monkey bars all pass it. And you can notice how much momentum they're using through their legs as Lindsay makes it through to make sure they do not slip, and they use as little energy as possible.
Well, one of the things that's worth noting as we went into that men's twister obstacle was that all the athletes are doing that forward ape swing. And it's one of those obstacles where it's absolutely necessary to be confident with the technique that you use. A lot of people go backwards. A lot of people move with that ape swing because it's quicker, but it's a little more dangerous. You can see that Lindsay Webster running stride for stride with Lauren Cummings, who is actually an Olympic trials qualifier in the marathon. So she's one of the best pure runners in the field, and she's won a number of Spartan races, but this is a deep field for her. She doesn't usually get to race against competition this quality.
She's also an aspiring New York City policewoman. She just went through her firearms training this week, and now she is here down in West Virginia throwing down and shooting it up with all the other ladies.
And look how tight this just got in the woods as the athletes are dodging trees and tree branches.
Did you see the athleticism of Ariel Fitzgerald right there, weaving in and out of those branches? It was incredible.
Well, that's Ryan Woods right now, your leader on the course in the North American Championship Series here, in the North American Championship race here from West Virginia, and there's no one seems to be quite on him right now. And you can see in the women's race, that's Lindsay Webster sitting in about third position behind Rebecca Hammond, and up ahead you can see both Faye Stenning and Nicole Mericle.
Yeah, Lindsay's sitting there in fourth. She's actually much further up at this point in the race than she was at the same spot last year. She's certainly moving a lot faster, but she has to because the women are just that much faster this year.
This is a really slick little ravine right here. Athletes are going to go down over this tree, and it gets really deep. What Ryan Woods is running right now is the women have hit that first big kicker that tightened up the men's field early.
When you drive into the state of West Virginia, it just has a big sign. It says West Virginia, wild and wonderful. You're seeing all those sights right now. All the grass, the trees down, the branches. It truly is kind of an outdoorsman's paradise.
When you watch Lindsay Webster run, one thing you notice is how relaxed she is. The other thing that you'll notice is she never seems worried about not being in first position. For an athlete that's as accomplished as she is, that's won as many championships as she has, she just sits back there confident in her abilities, knowing she has all the time in the world, and she lets athletes lead her, not concerned, not rushed at all.
We just saw a picture of a shot of her husband, Ryan Atkins, and they kind of have this funny thing they do between the two of them. They call her legs the power stumps. They call his legs the power pistons. Her legs the power stumps because they're so short because she moves them so fast. As Nicole Mericle just used her belly to maintain pressure on that wall. She's going to have some scratches later. Rebecca Hammond has found the footing, and I tell you what, she has had one race since that race in Alabama, and she's hanging with the best girls in the world right now, and she is fearless. She came into this race last year never running a race that was over 8 miles. Now she's coming in with the confidence that she brought in from West Virginia and Lake Tahoe last year, knowing she could throw down any one of these women, and they better be nervous that she's right on their tails.
Well, that's Ryan Atkins right here, your defending National Series champion. And as he hits some of these rugged trails, we heard him talk a little bit earlier this week about rugged trails and the work that he likes to put in back home in Canada.
Well, the fact that it's a lot more, densely vegetated here, I love it. I mean, I'm from the East Coast, and where we live, it kind of looks like this. It's just really green, really tons of plants in the summer. Everything grows up like crazy. So that's what I'm used to. I'm used to the humidity, and so yeah, it feels like coming home. So I'm stoked. I'm stoked for the brambles. I'm stoked for the steep, loose, wet stuff, and I think it's just fun out there because there's so many little elements that they can use that we can't really see when it's somewhere that's a lot drier, like maybe Colorado or Utah or somewhere out west, where you're more running on service roads a lot more.
And again, this is a perfect terrain for a guy like Ryan Atkins. One of the things that's tougher for him not living at altitude is when he runs these mountain courses that are at altitude. It's just a disadvantage. He manages to power through it, but it can be very challenging. This is an ideal location for him and for his wife right there, Lindsay Webster, Rebecca Hammond giving chase. The big question for her is, of course, how are her legs going to respond to all this technical trail running when she hasn't been doing it as much?
We're looking at the Z-walls right now. Before I'll get back to Rebecca Hammond in a second. This is one where, again, takes a tremendous amount of concentration. We've seen many of the athletes, such as a Hobie Call, such as a Ryan Atkins, just missed the bell at the end of that because they lost focus for a second. As you see Lindsay Webster there being chased by Rebecca Hammond, she just did a race in Boston a few weeks ago where the terrain was somewhat similar, and it held up pretty well. She didn't really push it, but she walked away with tremendous confidence after that, knowing the foot would heal up. She's just hired a new coach. Has been working with him. They've worked on a lot of different things. She has the confidence to get through today.
That always efficient, perfect stride that you see from Lindsay Webster, just so comfortable, so relaxed, and in front of her, that looking almost more aggressive, choppier stride. That's Faye Stenning. She runs by almost just muscling her way through these races, and when you're close to her, one thing that you'll notice is her breathing, which is so loud, wheezing, and vocal. And she does that for the full 2 hours of this race. It's not going to slow down. It's not because she feels, well, she does feel awful, but it's nothing out of the ordinary for her.
She always sounds like she's doing the 400-meter dash for the entire race.
Yeah, and she basically is. She's pushing herself to her absolute red line limits for the entire race.
That takes so much heart and so much guts to do that all the time, but she also has that gas tank to back it up. As we're watching Rebecca now kind of power up this hill, maintaining contact, and this is something that she did last year. She hung with these ladies very early on. They could not shake her, and it really kind of shook them up. Now they're at Atlas carry. Now, there's a rule change here. Ryan Woods no longer has to drop it and do 5 burpees. He's just going to go around that post and return it to the initial spot. Now, that's going to tax his grip a little bit more because he has to hang on to it the whole time, but he also doesn't have to re-pick it up, and that sometimes taxes the athlete's back.
The second lift that they don't have to do anymore is basically like avoiding having to do a heavy deadlift. So you're taking the back pressure out, you're taking the hamstring and the glute pressure out, and it makes the obstacle just quick as a whole. The objective there is, for most athletes, the hope that maybe the Atlas carry will get longer instead because you don't have to waste that time on the burpees. Now, this is a big descent. Very, very steep. Very, very technical. You can see the camera can't even tilt down fast enough. Super slick as they head into the woods, and then they're going to be a hard right when they get into the woods.
Just to give you a little perspective, there was a bridge going over that, so this gap had to be high enough where they needed a bridge to go over, and so that's how steep it was. They're at about 4.5 miles at this spot. And one more thing about that Atlas carry, as you watch Rebecca now going through that bramble that we looked at the men doing earlier, is we had some of the athletes who actually broke their fingers. Ryan Kempson last year in a race, as he was placing it down in between, smashed and broke the tip of his finger. So that eliminates a little bit of the risk at that one obstacle.
This is true. And again, Rebecca Hammond putting her power hiking skills to the test. There's going to be a lot of that back and forth as the athletes hit these steep kicking inclines. And Ryan Woods is now on this stretch of gravel where he can open up a little bit. Shortly coming up, you're going to encounter a sandbag carry after this next little climb.
Ryan Woods went to North Carolina State, where he was an All-American in, I believe it was the 1500. So he could put it down on flat terrain just as good as anybody.
I mean, he had a sub-14 5K, and that's 14 minutes for those who aren't big running aficionados. And that is an absolutely absurd pace to drop for that distance. But also, he was a member of the Team USA mountain running team. So that's a huge deal as well. His ability to run on multiple terrains, surfaces, incline profiles is very rare.
As a runner of his caliber for so long, there's so many parts of his physicality that got ignored while he was in college and right after college. As Rebecca, too, was also an outstanding runner in college, 1,500 runner as well. But you don't develop the grip strength and the upper body strength and the back strength that you needed for a lot of these obstacles early on. A lot of that contributed to his early inconsistency. But as he's developed that strength over the years, that's why he was able to take first place within the National Series last year and why he's still able to hang on today, even after a disappointing National Series this year.
You could see that he was taking a little bit of nutrition right there.
Rebecca misses her first jump up to that wall. Shows you how difficult it is, considering she is an outstanding rock climber.
Now that's a lot of this is about confidence for her right now. She's not attacking it aggressively. She wasn't going for the big jump, and a lot of that I think is because of her Achilles. She doesn't want to over push it, over tax it. She didn't try and jump the way some of the other athletes have at this point, but third time's a charm, and she's up and over. And her ideal goal, just get back up into that tempo that she was running before, because she looks very smooth right now.
That was a great point. You could actually see when she was going up the tape on her right lower leg that's protecting that Achilles right now.
An opportunity for her, maybe if she can get the 8-foot box again, another jump here. So she's going to have to be cautious on this, but the actual running itself doesn't seem to be phasing her at all, and that is Lindsay Webster now making moves. I think it's possible that she has moved up into second position now.
And those are the power stumps she was talking about. Well, they may be little, but they are mighty.
Well, Lindsay Webster's going to make a move on this descent. She loves the downhills. She tends to close pretty significantly on her competition on any downhills that she can find. And Nicole Mericle may be the only person in front of her right now.
Lindsay Webster is probably the best downhill athlete on the women's side in the world. She gets to run a lot of downhills and train a lot with her husband, Ryan Atkins, who's also tremendous in his own right. But we've seen Lindsay last year on this course blow past other athletes like Rhea Kobar on some downhills, and she's going to have plenty of opportunity to do that later in the race as the elevation goes up and the terrain gets more technical.
So especially when she has this open gravel, this is times for any athlete when you hit portions of the course like this, you hammer it, you hit it hard. Because when you're in those sections like what we just saw Ryan Woods in, It's steep, it's slippery, it's incredibly difficult to navigate. That's draining, but you don't actually move very far for the amount of energy you're putting out. So when you've got to cover 13 miles, you need to hammer the course where you can.
We're here at the first sandbag carry now. This is about mile 5.5 as Ryan Woods takes off with really nobody left in sight at this point. Right there taking some of the video footage is our Rabbit and Trail Master Steve.
And it's about, I would say, a 10-second gap back to Ryan Kempson, who's moved into second position, and Ryan Atkins in third. But don't be surprised if Atkins passes Kempson right here very quickly. This is what he loves to do. He thrives on these heavy carries, and for Kempson, who's one of the more slight of build guys, it's going to be about just limiting the damage. Limit the damage. He can carry pretty well in his own right, but Atkins may be the best in the world.
Incredible savvy move there by Atkins. You see how he kind of pancaked that sandbag behind his head as Kempson's struggling, and the sandbag's kind of like across his back, almost like a backpack. This allows Ryan Atkins to run with more balance in this very undulating underfooting and close on Kempson without having to expel as much energy.
No, it's important to note that if the bag is hanging down your back the way it is with Kempson and some of these other people where they let it dangle, that is not energy efficient. The higher it sits on your shoulders, the easier it is to move with that weight. It doesn't move around. It takes pressure off your lower back, and it allows you to just move more freely like you're wearing just a backpack or something.
They've been running. They're at mile 5.5 right now, running at such a feverish pace, putting in so much hard work. At no point in this race have you seen any of these athletes kind of take a break, kind of take their breath, kind of repace themselves and slow it down. They have been hammering the entire time and attacking each other with ferocity.
Well, again, you can see Ryan Woods up in the front. That's first position. Ryan Kempson in second. Ryan Atkins in third. The three Ryans who we expected to see today all out in the front here in the North American Championships in West Virginia, and that's Lindsay Webster. She's your favorite for the women's field. You're defending North American champion, and you're defending U.S. National Series champion.
What championship is she not defending?
None.
She has all three.
She's defending them all. She's got 2 world titles to her name as well. Here's Mark Batres, one of the best pure runners in the field, hoping he can put it together. It seems like he's not too far behind either. He's having a very solid day.
This is his best effort in a big race this year. He's hanging right in there.
Now, it is early. We're only, looking at 4 or 5 miles into this thing. It's a 13-mile day. There's a lot of time left. But this is a good sign for Mark Batres.
I will say he has struggled on things such as the heavy carries. For him to be doing that well on that obstacle is saying a lot right now.
Well, it's not one of the super steep carries, although it does have a steep section. It's just very long, and we have a number of long carries on this course today. 2 sandbag carries, a bucket, and a log carry. For more on this particular sandbag carry, the third member of our broadcast team, and that's Steve Hammond. Steve.
Well, incredible scenes here at the sandbag carry. We've got Ryan Woods in first place, Ryan Kempson and Ryan Atkins taking up 2 and 3. And an amazing Mark Batres in 4th place. Absolutely incredible scenes here at the sandbag carry. We're coming into the meat of the course now. Everything's going to get harder. We're going to see if some of these athletes run off too fast. It could be really, really interesting to see how this finishes. There's a long way to go, guys. Long way to go. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And there again, your leader on the course, that's Ryan Woods. After a tough year, he is looking to make his mark and claim a championship at the North American Championships, and of course, put himself in the driver's seat for a world championship. And right behind him, Ryan Atkins, as expected, has moved into second position on the carry. But that was Mark Batres now, sitting in that third spot.
For him to hang on a heavy carry, 5.5 miles into a beast, is showing that Mark Batres is here to play today.
Now, it is possible that Ryan Kempson actually is up ahead in second position. But again, here, another open spot on the road where you're going to see Ryan Woods drop that speed, really open up.
And it's a little tougher here than what you'd think. If you can see that kind of berm running down. So the the ground there is like a gully, so he's kind of running in a ditch. So now that he's up on the left side of it, that right foot is dropping a little lower and then to the center into a little bit of water. So he's kind of going back and forth on that. It's really hard to get some kind of even footing, but he's making it look pretty easy right now.
It's pretty clean over there compared to the rest of the stuff that they're going to see out on that course. They're happy to have it, and he made that move into the gravel right here. That's the fastest terrain you can find on this course. So anywhere that you see gravel, you should be gravitating toward it.
But if you notice, he's staying within the boundary. He has to stay inside that tape. He couldn't hit the gravel before because that was outside the boundary. So he's doing a great job there of following the rules, but making sure he's taking advantage of the ground in front of him. As we're getting a look now at Lindsay Webster rolling right through that beater with ease.
Yep, Lindsay Webster making it look easy, and that's something that a couple years ago might have given her some trouble, but now she seems to be so obstacle proficient. And again, that spot where you said the runners can open up, Mark Batcheris, one of the best runners in the field, is quickly separating himself from Ryan Atkins. This is a significant move for him because to be this far ahead of the main field, this far into the race, it looks like he's got some legs today that we haven't seen from him in a while.
And he sees a sense of urgency there, too. He has to put it down in areas like that, knowing that they still have two more heavy carries ahead of him in the bucket and in the other sandbag. And, of course, looming over this entire race, that very difficult Yokohama tire flip.
Oh, that Yokohama tire flip has posed problems in the past. In fact, it cost Ryan Woods here a win a couple years ago when he was in first and had to take burpees on it. Who knows the carnage that it might have today. And this is Rebecca Hammond. She has not spent a lot of time on beater, and you could tell she does not have the fluidity. But that second transition was pretty good, and she's made it through safely. Good signs for her as she makes her way through some of the less familiar obstacles.
We got a great look at how fast that beater spins you down. And for somebody who's such a proficient rock climber, it almost took her out where she had to readjust on it and kind of take her time and rock back and then rock forward again.
Now, Woods has just made it to the top of this climb. It's a hard left. He's going to descend. And then he's got a little bit of space in the field before he hits the armor obstacle.
The armor is an obstacle where it's a giant atlas ball with a triangular handle in the center. It's very awkward to pick up and walk with, and that's where it doesn't seem too complicated, but it's going to tax things like their upper back and their groin muscles tremendously. And for this kind of running, as you see Rebecca Hammond doing it, bouncing back and forth, the groin later on could cramp up severely if that armor takes a little bit too much out of them.
Yeah, Rebecca Hammond looks very smooth on the trails, and it's exciting to see her putting it back together again. She's had a really long road back, not just to being able to run, but to being back in peak form. And I still don't think we've seen peak form from her this year. This was supposed to be the year that we saw her break out as a true veteran, even though she took second at North American Championships and World Championships last year. This was supposed to be her year that she challenged Lindsay Webster for the crown. But we'll see what happens when she gets to Tahoe.
It is a year-long grind that gets a lot of athletes, and this is the grind of the armor. As you can see, the tremendous pressure it's putting on that groin. He has to open up his legs in a way that he hasn't yet today, and that could cause severe cramps, but he got through it pretty quickly and looks like he's running away as he looks over his shoulder and sees nobody over it right now.
Yes, that external rotation of the legs really challenges the hips and the groins a lot. And it's one of those things where, again, a lot of these obstacles are designed to be rhythm breakers. You're running very smooth, you're comfortable, you're in the zone, and all of a sudden you hit something like that and it just shakes you a little bit. Just like that wall that Faye Stenning just climbed over.
She struggles on the wall sometimes. And one thing that we could see right there was Ryan Woods ran away from the armor with Ryan Atkins not even there yet. So he has kind of a full obstacle lead with a little extra as well.
Now, Woodsy is about to hit the most technical portion of this course. They're going to do the most ascending here, a number of climbs, really technical, and then, of course, they hit the second nasty sandbag carry.
Mentally, this is so difficult on these athletes. He has to push tremendously hard right now, but he has nobody to pace off of. There's nothing in his foreground or in his background right now that's giving him a sense of the speed at which other people are coming. And when you can't do it, it takes a tremendous amount of mental effort to maintain the kind of speed he needs to continue to win this race.
And that right there is Ryan Kempson trying to move himself back up into that podium spot. I believe that's Ryan Atkins right in front of him.
And before that, we saw Faye Stenning running very fast as well. She's hanging in there.
She's having a very strong race, and she seems to have put it together over the last couple days because what we saw, or the last couple races, because what we saw from her early in the year was she just wasn't herself. She's usually always on the podium, and we just didn't quite have that from her through the first 4 races of the year. But now with Utah, strong showing there, and this race today, she's proving that she is back close to peak form.
And what we've noticed now is Ryan Kempson is actually in second place behind Ryan Woods as he trips.
Tough slip.
This is the same train that Woods was on, and it's before Ryan Atkins. So he was kind of in there in the center. We didn't see him, but he is in second place as we're looking at a rockin' six-pack from Faye Stenning.
Yeah, Faye Stenning, just super buff, super comfortable, super fast. And, you know, she's looking to drop the hammer on this section of the course right now. She looks very smooth at this moment. And, oh, that's a bear! That's a bear that just ran across right in front of Faye Stenning. And, you know, it looks like she's just got to keep going. She doesn't even look phased by this at all. You know, that's a total Spartan athlete reaction to just keep on churning through. We talked to Ryan Atkins about this just a little while ago and about what he would do if he encountered a bear out on the course.
I actually had races where there's been a bear on course running the same direction as I have, and I chased him for like a quarter mile and just hoping that he wasn't going to turn around and charge me. But I mean, it's black bears out here. They're really nothing to worry about. You get a couple of elite men together, and even if there's a black bear attacking you, like we could take it. So we'll be fine.
Well, I don't know if Faye Stenning had the same opinion about whether she could take a bear or not, but she seems to be trying to put as much ground between herself and that critter as possible as she really opens up here on this flat section. Again, just something that maybe makes you stop thinking about the pain that you're in for a moment.
And that's why we practice the spear throw.
That's it right there. Probably not a good enough tip on that spear, but I think I remember seeing Matt Novakovic with one that might be able to take down a bear.
And if she didn't get her adrenaline jolt from that, I don't know what will.
Well, right now, again, you can see Faye Stenning. She's sitting in 4th position overall here in the women's field at the North American Championships here in West Virginia. And again, with the speed like this, you have to wonder just how fast are the women in front of her going?
Maybe they were getting chased by the bear.
Maybe. We could see power hikes now. You could see a little bit of a gap closing with these athletes. Is that
It's Mark Batres up on Ryan Atkins.
Man, Mark Batres is having quite a day keeping up with Ryan Atkins because that's no small feat.
If you notice the difference in the running right there, where Ryan was power hiking it, is Mark is taking an opportunity now as the pace is slowed to get a little bit nutrition. It's just savvy veteran move, and Faye Stenning there again, getting some water herself, making sure she's hydrated going into the twister.
Yeah, the twister obstacle, definitely one of the more concerning ones for athletes in the field, and this is tough for the women. They've mastered it over the last couple, I would say, seasons, but really this has been one that puts a wrench in it for a lot of the women's field because the grip can be so tough. But it's also 3 sections, and normally this is only a 2-section twister. That 3rd section is where things get very hard.
Faye Stenning is using a really good pendulum here. The key to this obstacle is not only having good grip, but it's using your lower body to propel yourself forward and up to the next handhold, so it takes less energy off your back and your biceps and propels you down the twister.
Now, that was an easy work from Faye Stenning. She used a reach and match technique. So she's going to reach with one hand. She's going to match with her second hand on the same grip hold, and then go back into the next reach. And this is the rope traverse, the Tyrolean traverse. Ryan Atkins is very good at this obstacle. The thin rope does make it a lot harder than what someone might encounter in the military, where it's a little bit thicker and you could climb on top of that rope. But again, quick work. Mark Batres, Ryan Atkins, in and out.
Very different techniques you just saw there from Batres, Atkins, and now Ryan Kent, who's on it. Kent and Atkins were using a swinging back and forth their legs to help propel them to keep some of the pressure off their wrists, where Mark Batres just put the rope on his compression shorts and just used his arms to pull himself. That is going to tax his grip later.
How much Ryan Kent right there was rocking side to side as compared to Robert Killian, who's a little more used to this being the military man. But you have to kind of itsy-bitsy your spider, your feet, back and forth, because if you were to drag your feet and the rope dragged on your ankle instead of your feet, you will flay the flesh right off of yourself.
Mark Batras got away with it because he did high compression sarks. Robert Killen uses a technique kind of like an inchworm. He pulls his arms all the way up and then slides both legs together. As we're getting a great look right now with the ladies, that is Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster toe-to-toe right now on the Z-wall, maneuvering through it carefully but fast and efficiently, maintaining 3 points of contact on each one of those to make sure they don't slip.
Well, that's first and second place right now. Nicole Mericle in first, Lindsay Webster in second, and between the two of them, they have won every race of the U.S. National Series this year. They finished first and second in that series respectively, and now they're duking it out for the North American Championship. Nicole Mericle is committed to trying to win this race, a little bit less mountainous, totally her speed. She sees the opportunity to seize it from Lindsay Webster.
And we see Ryan Woods there, our leader, on sandbag number 2. He has just completed it as Ryan Kent is just starting. That's kind of showing the lead he has.
That's about a 2-minute carry, just so people understand the gap between them right now.
And that's about 7 3/4 miles into this course. So they're more than halfway through, as Robert Killian now has also arrived behind Ryan Kent, who's fought his way back up into this course.
Now, this is this gnarly descent into this gully we were talking about before. It's super beautiful, very slippery.
As you saw Faye Stenning almost go down there, and that is a part of her game that she is not super confident in, is the technical descents. She's worked a lot with Lindsay Webster, who are friends, up in the Adirondack Mountains of New York to work on her descending. It seemed to pay off a little bit for her there.
And Ryan Woods, who you're seeing on camera right now, after doing that sandbag carry, has now approached probably the most technical section of this entire course. There's a lot of rocks and stumps and roots in this little section. Very hard to get your footing, and yet they're running at an incredibly high speed.
And that was VJ Jones. Again, we talked about him not being too super comfortable at a beast course. He's hanging in there right now with those top 10 men.
Ryan Atkins just finishing the carry as well, so probably about 1:15 behind Ryan Woods right now as he heads into this technical section. He may be able to make up some ground in there.
And here's Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster toe-in-toe right now at the Atlas carry.
Again, not putting it down. That's critical right now. You know, I've wondered today, would any athletes make that mistake, not read the rule book, or forget that change in the rules and end up costing themselves some time? But you haven't seen that from the ever consummate pros that we have out here on this course. Nicole Mericle sitting in first position, looking very comfortable.
Yeah, there's that risk of kind of being on an autopilot. These athletes are sometimes running 20 to 30 Spartan races a year and are so used to the rules that when there is a change, you never know if they're going to remember.
Nicole is breaking a lot on this. Lindsay's going to close a big time on her on this descent. It's a very slippery one, so by the time that descent is over and they enter into the woods, I assume they're going to be about deadlocked.
Nicole Mericle moving very quickly there, though.
And as Nicole makes her way into this section, she's going to have to keep the pressure on. There's a gravel road before the women's sandbag carry, but you just saw Lindsay Webster moving within a few seconds of her.
You saw a very savvy, athletic move from Nicole Mericle, grabbing that tree so she didn't have to lose any momentum, kind of slingshotting her around that curve and heading down. And you were right. They're right on each other's tails.
This is what happens. You know, you give Lindsay Webster an opportunity to make up a few seconds on you on a downhill, and she will take those seconds every single time. And now Nicole is going to have to hammer on this sandbag carry coming up if she wants to keep that lead, because Lindsay methodically has been pulling her back for the last few miles.
And with those big climbs coming up, with those very long descents and technical descents, Lindsay Webster has Nicole Mericle right where she wants her.
You know, it's one thing to be running out in the lead and another thing to be chasing. When you're running in the lead, it feels like you have wings on your feet, but it also is running scared. And there's something about having somebody stalking you that makes you very uncomfortable. And this is a long race to be that kind of anxious for.
It's mentally draining and physically draining on Nicole Mericle, and it is making life much easier for Lindsay Webster right there.
It also requires that Nicole has to set the tempo and establish exactly how fast they're going to go. And Lindsay, all she has to do is sit back there and watch and respond.
You know, you got to be like, if you're Nicole, you got to be like, what do I have to do? Here's a course where I have a tremendous amount of flat terrain where I'm generally better, but I cannot shake her. What do I have to do to get rid of her? Because Lindsay Webster will not go away.
Faye Stenning has made it to the Z-wall right now, and as she works her way across, she's going to have to be very cautious. You saw she could use that post to get up, but as we make that transition, into the corner, she's no longer allowed to use any of these additional aids to her. She's going to have to work her way with just the handholds and the footholds.
As much concentration as this obstacle does take, it's always sort of a welcome obstacle to athletes because it's a way for you to drop your heart rate a little bit and kind of recover as you navigate through here.
So she has to avoid stepping on that center section. That's how she could end up getting the burpee penalty here, or, of course, slipping off in general. But, again, quick work from Faye Stenning, off and running. And usually when you come off an obstacle like this, you've caught your breath. You have that opportunity to really attack the next section of the run.
It's also a sigh of relief when you hit that bell.
Well, Lindsay Webster just methodically working her way through this course. Just such an experienced veteran because of all the races she runs and all the miles she does. And we caught up with her, and she talked a little bit about her training and how she's peaking for Tahoe.
I think we all focus on trying to peak at Tahoe, so definitely building towards that. I've had a lot happening lately in terms of mileage, so I think I'm actually coming to this race a lot more tired than I normally would be. I had a race a couple weekends ago that I crashed and burned really hard about halfway through. I started feeling really good, and then I just totally ran out of energy, so I'm just hoping that that doesn't happen tomorrow, and then if it does, then any residual fatigue that I have I can shed before Tahoe so that I can put down a good race there.
Well, a good process produces good results, and that's not my words. Those are the words of West Virginia native and Alabama football coach Nick Saban, who's had some of the greatest teams come out of his university, and Lindsay Webster takes those words to heart herself. She always puts in the work, and this is why she's always getting fantastic results.
Well, we talked about that sandbag carry that was coming up that might kind of equalize it for the two of them, and you can see just about 10 seconds ahead, Nicole Mericle is just cresting that hill, and at the top of it, the first of two sandbag carries, Lindsay is looking to do damage on this thing.
What's great about these sandbag carries for Lindsay is with the undulating downward terrain, it plays very well into her running down hills with heavy things. So it's a spot where she could really make up some time. And then we can kind of get an idea of how far Faye Stenning is behind the leaders as she's coming in not too far on the Atlas carry behind them.
Now, we got to say, this is actually very surprising that she's this far behind already. We have to assume that something went terribly wrong in Faye's race already. And we're having reports that part of this was issues at the 8-foot box right out of the gates early on. And that would explain why she's gotten that separation. She just hasn't been able to pull these ladies back in with the efforts that she's been running.
Yeah, we talked about that 8-foot box. Some of that sand is pouring out of the sandbag.
Big-time leak in that sandbag right there.
Right. That's not the athlete's fault. They pull them out, and sometimes as you're running, they're just going to pop a hole and the sand will come out.
Now, again, this is that slippery, treacherous descent that we talked about before, and you see some slips from Faye Stenning right there. This is a tough way down, and she's moving with speed, but sometimes it's easier and safer and less slippery to just open up and just go with gravity on these hills rather than trying to resist and slipping on your heels and falling on your back or butt.
She had that early slip where she kind of went back a little bit, and it didn't phase her. She still had some confidence and put them down and continued to go hard. That shows you that some of the work that she has done with Lindsay up in the Adirondack Mountains in New York has helped her out. She's running with a little more confidence.
She is, and, I mean, she's running there. It's just her and that cameraman hammering together. Really quality effort from the two of them.
Those rabbits that we have out there, again, world-class athletes, world-class ultra runners that are following these men and women with a camera through all this terrain, not only getting the shots, but keeping themselves from hitting the dirt as well.
And again, here we are on the sandbag carry, and Faye Stenning is rapidly approaching it. We've got a battle up ahead for her, or it's Lindsay Webster and Nicole Mericle battling for first and second on the sandbag carry. Rebecca Hammond approaching it in third position and Faye Stenning in fourth. So the big four that we assumed are the four out on the course that are competing for those podium spots.
And towards the end of this race, before that Yokohama tire flip that we referenced earlier, is that spear. That's an obstacle that's been tougher on this field of ladies throughout the course of history in Spartan, and something that's always looming in their head as they're running these trails approaching the other obstacles.
And Faye Stenning, for those who don't know, does have a third-place finish at the World Championships to her name, of which she was separated from Lindsay Webster by less than a tenth of a second. The famous burpee off at the end of that race where Lindsay beat her by one burpee to the line. And that is Lindsay Webster passing Nicole Mericle, moving into first place. And for Nicole, this has got to be pretty soul-crushing because she just worked so hard to get a lead, and it evaporated just like that on one carry.
She could not shake Lindsay Webster no matter what she did. And going back to your story about face-setting Lindsay Webster, I actually had the thrill of being the official on site when that moment happened. I was laying down in front of them, counting every single burpee. And what happened was Faye Stenning, who we're seeing running here right now, attacked 3/4 of the multi-rig, fell off, and Lindsay Webster decided just to touch the rig and run and attack that burpee off with her. So they were neck and neck the whole time.
Savvy move. It's a savvy move by Lindsay Webster, who right now looks completely unfazed by this sandbag carry. She's about to drop it, and then it's an opportunity for her to open up and fly as well. Maybe Nicole can close this little gap that formed between them because we have a lot of flat right here, and she's going to need to before they hit that ever so technical section in the woods.
It was a very savvy veteran move, and what you saw there was a savvy veteran stare. As she ran away from that sandbag, she turned her head, gave Nicole a little bit of look, and if she's looking at Nicole with a face of no fatigue on, that's got to be a scary thought for Nicole Mericle.
And again, I saw a little bit of gel work out of Lindsay Webster right here. She's going to try and take some energy gel right now. This is as good a time as any. It's flat. There's no obstacles. She can take it. And then, of course, she just had some water. One of the big things that people don't realize when you eat an energy gel, because you need those calories to keep the body going, is that those gels need water, about 8 ounces of water, or they're going to find that water from a different source, meaning it will suck that fluid directly out of your body if you don't take it with a cup of water. And a lot of athletes find that moments after taking one of those gels, they start cramping up because, one, you're having blood flow away from your muscles and into your abdominal region, and two, you have that water being sucked directly out of your muscles as a way to kind of fuel that gel.
To piggyback off that great information, she ingested it right after the heavy carry, which is going to be more taxing on her blood glycogen. A lot of times when they're running at this pace, they're burning fats. When they hit a heavy carry or a hard obstacle, their body will shift into a more glucose energy system. So to get that back in you immediately after a really hard obstacle is an opportune time. And like you said, she did it when she had a water source to do it with.
And just like we were mentioning and predicting before, this is Nicole's chance to hammer down a little bit, and she is pulling all that time gap right back on Lindsay Webster. Don't be surprised if when they hit this little incline, she tries to make a pass beyond her and move back into first position.
It's so important here for Nicole to maintain that contact, too, because when they get to some more of those skill obstacles, such as the spear, you have to be there, ready and available to make someone go maybe a little bit faster than they thought they wanted to. Lindsay Webster in the Utah race was able to take her time at the spear because even though she missed, she knew if she did, she'd have the time to hit the 30 burpees and continue. If it happens today and Nicole Mericle is right there, it puts so much more pressure on her to make. That could cause a mistake.
Now, Faye Stenning in fourth position still, making her way into the sandbag carry to start. That's a big gap, and the class of the field is up ahead. Lindsay Webster and Nicole Mericle, and that pass by Nicole, like we were just thinking might happen, she knows as this race is about to hit the most technical and most steep sections of this course, she needs to get away from Lindsay Webster. She's not in a good position because she knows she can't out-technical run her, especially on the big downhills. She's got to use every bit of uphill and every bit of flat she can.
This was very similar to the race that we had here last year as we're watching these men now power up this incline. You can tell.
Ryan Atkins and Ryan Kent. Kent has moved back into the field.
Did you just see the smile on his face as he looked up the camera on Ryan Atkins that was? But you could get a great sense of how steep that actually was. And for Ryan Kent to be that close up on Ryan Atkins is saying a lot about his fitness right now.
Yeah, Ryan Kent had said he thought his fitness was there, and yet the last couple of races just did not work out for him in the mountains. He looks very happy to be back on these trails in West Virginia. And he just made a pass on Ryan Atkins, climbing one of the toughest climbs of this race right here and making it look easy as he doesn't just power hike, he runs this thing.
This is one of his favorite courses in the country, and he puts this course, this race, on his calendar as his number one priority when the season starts. This is a place where he had his breakthrough performance a few years ago. He came in second behind Robert Killian and actually led most of the race at that one. So he is really wanting to put down a great effort today and stamp himself as the North American Regional Champion.
And again, Nicole Mericle, out in front of Lindsay Webster. She's looking to try and stretch that gap to as much as she can. She's managed to nab 3 or 4 seconds beyond the time that she reeled in, but we are rapidly approaching that nasty technical section in the woods.
And this is our first look at Rebecca Hammond. When I was saying earlier this is similar to last year, Rebecca, Nicole, Lindsay, and Faye were in a pack of 4 for almost the entire race running together. So Lindsay Webster is very, very conscious that this kind of happened last year. She was running with someone or 3 other people for almost the entire majority of the race. So this is not going to spook her, because last year she put on a tremendous effort at the last 3K to take the win. So she knows if she stays close, she still has a great chance to take this home.
And as the athletes head into armor right here, again, deadlocked in one little tiny downhill like that, and Lindsay Webster has erased that 4-second disadvantage again. This is what she's going to continually to do, and it has to be just so mentally crushing for Nicole Mericle to keep putting in all these efforts to stretch away and take the lead, only to lose it every time there's even a slight downhill.
She just cannot shake her. No matter how fast she goes, it's almost like the more effort she puts in now, it's just going to make Lindsay Webster that much stronger on her later. If Nicole buries herself right now in fatigue, it just makes it that much more advantageous for Lindsay Webster later on the race on those steep descents.
I mean, this is pretty amazing, guys, right now. What we have, head-to-head battle, back and forth, constant lead change between the two of these. And you're talking about the class of the women's field, Lindsay Webster versus the woman who's trying to steal her spot at the top of not just this podium, but every podium, every week. It's like Magic and Bird, you know? Big-time rivals.
A big-time tennis match. This is like Venus and Serena just going at it, trading forehands, trading backhands, rushing the net, hitting volleys, point for point, back and forth, 8-game sets, you name it. They're just going toe-to-toe and not backing down.
And again, Rebecca Hammond, who was second place here last year, making her return for the season, sitting in a very strong third place, but doesn't look like she has the ability to track these two down. The question will be, can she hold off Faye Stenning, who seems to be hard charging right now?
Yeah, even though Faye struggled on that 8-foot box that you referenced earlier, she still has a greater degree of races under her belt this year.
And this, the technical section we mentioned before with all the big climbing, starts right now. I would say at least half of the incline. Whoa, as we see how fall.
Tremendous pass. Nicole goes down, and Lindsay Webster just reeled her in like she was taking a bass out of one of these West Virginia ponds.
Very, very slippery terrain, but also just treacherous footing, a lot of rocks, a lot of roots, and the rocks are very mossy and slick. But what we're going to see over the next 4 miles or so is about 50% of all the incline on this course. It's going to happen then. So a lot of nasty climbing. It's just kind of messy. You've got to use your hands for a lot of it to catch grip on trees and rocks and roots. But also you have to be very careful that you don't slip and hurt yourself.
What are the chances she caught a crawfish when she went down in that stream?
Probably very low. But at the same time, she's going to have to work her butt off if she hopes to keep Lindsay in her sights, because there's a sandbag carry coming up. There's a lot of technical running coming up. And then the course ends with about 3 miles of relatively flat and open, a chance for her to maybe run that thing back. But she's got to do damage control here if you're Nicole Mericle.
Well, somebody else running his butt off is Ryan Woods right there, who looked like he was almost running out of his pants. He's going so fast, they're starting to come down a little bit. He's got to reel those up and continue to move.
This climb, look for the athletes. Over the course of this race, we're seeing about 3,000 feet of gain. We have probably 1,500 in the next 3 to 4 miles. And this is a sizable separation between Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster. Back to Rebecca Hammond, you're probably looking at about 4 minutes. And then back to Faye Stenning, maybe another minute or so. So that race for third position, certainly not locked up by any means. And in a race this long, you can also have a 4 or 5 minute gap and completely blow up. The wheels can fall off, and then you find yourself completely off the podium, even if you've been running in that kind of position all day.
These are the kind of races, because there's so much undulating terrain that we talked about earlier, as Ryan Woods is now approaching that big swim, that it could just tax you so much that when you're feeling fine, but 8-9 miles later, you blow up. And this is one of those obstacles that's going to be really interesting to see, because they're hitting this water, and now they're starting to use their muscles in a completely different way.
Yeah, big change.
To navigate this swim, this is where cramps could really start to set in.
Now, the fortunate thing is this water is fairly warm, and typically the cramps are caused by not just swimming, but cold water. You're shocking the system. The central nervous system is jarred. The muscles all just contract. And this is an opportunity for a lot of these athletes actually just to cool down a little bit, but to do it at a rate that's not going to blow them up either. So I think a lot of them, it's a welcome reprieve, catch your breath a little bit. Some of them maybe doggy paddle or breaststroke this thing, but Ryan Wood seems to be freestyling.
Yeah, it's advantageous for that reason. One of the other things is if you've ever ridden a bicycle and you've been on there for a while, if it's a stationary bike or a regular bicycle, your legs are kind of moving in the same direction, the same way the whole time. Once you hop off and you start to run or do something else, it feels a little bit funny. That's how it's going to feel when they get out of the water after they're done swimming. And that is something, again, that could cause the cramps.
Now, you see the athletes are all messing with the life jackets a little bit before they get in. One rule is that they must have the jacket fully locked and on before they enter the water. Also, all of the jackets are currently strung up with the straps completely stretched tight, so they want to loosen it completely before they slip their arms in, and then after buckling it, tighten all the straps and tuck them in out of the way. Taking a couple extra seconds there can gain you a minute or more on that swim, because if the jacket fits you comfortably, now you can actually move efficiently.
As we see Nicole Mericle raging through the woods right now, it's such an important safety measure, because if they were to get a cramp, as you notice, you can't see through that water. They have lifeguards out there, but if you were to cramp and you were to go down, it would cause a situation that could be very, very scary and tragic. So we're taking all the precautions here to do this right and do it safely.
Well, that's Ryan Kent sitting in third position, entering the water, because Ryan Kempson somehow has moved into second, and Ryan Atkins in fourth. Atkins is a very strong swimmer. We've seen this out of him before, that he has managed to close on people. The man with absolutely no weaknesses in his game is about to try and make a move on some of the athletes in front of him.
And someone that, if he's chasing behind him and he's anywhere close, Robert Killian, world champion Ironman, is probably the best swimmer in the field by far.
Very, very good swimmer. Robert Killian is looking forward to this swim. There's no question about it. One of the things is we've seen swims take a toll on athletes in a number of championship races in the past. And for more on this, the third member of our broadcast team, Steve Hammond.
What an amazing course so far. We're just over 10 miles in, and we're on the longest swim that I think we have had on a US National Series course, or a North American Championship course as well. This is incredible. We've got Ryan Woodsley in the lead at the moment. You can actually just see him behind me here. He's doing the front crawl, followed fairly closely by Ryan Kempson, and then we've got a good battle of the Ryans coming in here right now. We've got Ryan Kent and Ryan Atkins as well. And I think it's just coming in. We've got Robert Killian and Mark Battress all in the swim. Right now, this could be a big game changer. We haven't had a swim this long thus far in a US race this year. See how it goes. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And as we cut away from the swim for just a moment, that's Nicole Mericle holding second position, trying to maintain her grasp on Lindsay Webster, who leads this race, who is trying to claim not just another North American Championship Series title, but she's trying to win every title there is this year, including Worlds as well. And Nicole may be the only person who can stop her.
And there were about mile 7 right before the second sandbag, as now we're seeing again Rebecca Hammond, who's holding third place very strong, who is not too far behind.
Yeah, Rebecca Hammond, very good on the downhills too. She attacks those pretty aggressively. For her, it's going to be about really holding off Faye Stenning the best that she can, because this battle up in front of her is at really another level right now. Just two of the best in the world, Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster, duking it out for first and second place here today.
Not only having to navigate the bushes, but navigating the men that they're routinely passing at this late in the course.
And it's kind of amazing. It's only been about 7 miles. These women started over 20 minutes behind the elite men, and they're gobbling them up like it's nothing. And again, we talk about this all the time. There's a place for everybody at Spartan Race, and for many, it's the age group division.
Which I'm proud to run in myself.
Yeah, there's a place for it. It's going to be nice to see the elite waves start to kind of thin out. The herd thins, and those who are not getting caught by 20 minutes being really the only people in the elite division as we move forward.
Yeah, to be very honest with you, Dave, at these big TV races that we've had in the past, I found myself at the very end of these races being caught by a Lindsay Webster and Nicole Mericle.
They're very talented.
And as I started getting a little bit older, it got into my 40s, I said, you know what? I'm hitting that line of demarcation where it was important for me to shift over into the age group waves. And it's just how it is. I'm very proud of it. It's incredibly competitive, but it's where I belong right now and where a lot of these other athletes belong as well.
It's following that trend line that triathlon kind of set in the first place. And right now, you're seeing Ryan Woods the first to exit the water. It took him a very, very long time. Now, the one thing that's nice is if you swam efficiently at all, you should be fully with your breath, heart rate down, ready to really, truly fly on this run.
And there was a high five to Aaron Newell, who's putting on his vest and entering the water.
Yeah, Aaron Newell having a pretty strong race himself right now. The question is, which of the three Ryans is going to be in second place when we come out of the water? Because we have Ryan Woods in first. We had Ryan Kempson, Ryan Kent, and Ryan Atkins all behind him. 4 Ryans in the top 4 spots. And I would say it's a surprise, but it's not. This happens all the time.
And this is a great opportunity for Ryan. He came out of the water. He hit a little bit of nutrition. He's about to ingest it now, and he could actually look back and see where people are.
Now, the majority of the rest of this race, there's about a mile of trail still to come, but it's mostly this gravel trail or dirt trail. It's nothing too crazy. The really technical stuff is behind him, and now it's going to be a lot of flat, fast, rolling hills, things like that. And there is still another heavy carry to come, that bucket carry.
Yeah, and that bucket carry is going to be interesting because the rules on that changed as well. The athletes are able to carry it on their shoulder now, so we're going to see who navigates at the best. As we're now watching Ryan Atkins
moving into second. We said man with no weaknesses, and look at him, just so efficient. He came out of the water. He's almost skipping right now, trying to get those feet up. And Ryan Atkins somehow still in a position that he could win this race.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to be cute there. He was actually using that move as a more efficient way to propel himself through the water. Ryan Atkins is training for a very big adventure race coming up in Fiji. A lot of it is him going to be swimming and navigating through the water, and he just showed the skills that he's put in the summer came out in a big way right there to his advantage.
It sure did. So you're looking at Ryan Woods in first position and now Ryan Atkins in second place. So you have the 2018 U.S. National Series champion in first and the 2019 U.S. National Series champion in second. This is a war that we've got that will probably come down all the way to the end because with a tire flip, a bucket carry still to come, things could tighten up a lot. And don't forget about that spear throw, as now Ryan Kempson moving into third position coming out of the water.
And he is struggling.
Oh, man, the first 100, 200 yards out of the water is rough, and then you find your legs again, but your heart rate's down. Empty those ears out, and it's time to get rolling.
Yeah, a couple snot rockets right there, trying to get the water out of the ears to keep his equilibrium. But he's fallen now back into fourth place behind Ryan Kent, who's holding a very strong third.
Wow, this is a deep, deep field and a really tight battle. How many lead changes and second, third, fourth podium position finish changes have we seen over the last hour or so?
Back and forth, back and forth. These guys are relentless, and we talked about it in the beginning. If they wanted to be the champ, they would have to beat the champ, and each one of these guys are beating up each other as the pole just goes down again.
Big time fall again, and again, it's that slip on your heels. When you're trying to break on some of these descents, it almost works against you. So she's now made it onto a little flat section because this is the sandbag carry. A chance for Nicole to maybe track Lindsay down. There's one flat section of the sandbag carry early, and then it drops down a very steep incline and into some technical stuff on the back half of this sandbag carry. So she's going to hammer this first half and try and pull her back while she can, because when it gets technical, Lindsay takes over.
Let's just put that into perspective right there. There's an athlete, Nicole Mericle, at mile 7 3/4, picking up a 50-pound sandbag and sprinting out of view in the camera within seconds. Shows you the fitness and the elite athleticism of the women in this sport.
Now Ryan Woods in the lead right now, first place, closing in on that festival area. This is the Hercules hoist. He's allowed to put one foot on that fence and drive back. This is a pretty tough weight that they're working with today because he is really struggling with this thing. He's getting it up, but it looks like it's quite a bit of effort from him.
He was given a lot of that bag back after he pulled it up. It was torrential downpour here the day before. Any kind of moisture makes those bags that much heavier. They're filled with sand, and they filled up with a tremendous amount more weight and made that so much more difficult, but he navigated it pretty well.
So now Lindsay Webster coming out of the sandbag carry. We said there was a technical section. We said she'd put in work there. She's got that lead over Nicole, but again, it's slight. This is one of the hardest running sections of the course. Very dangerous, lots to jump, lots of slick sections, a little river crossing, and a very steep climb out of this section where you actually need to use a rope to assist you in getting off over this cliff up there. So this will be a challenge for Nicole. Can she hold on to Lindsay Webster through this section? Because then there's a chance for her because it will flatten out soon.
Yeah, that obstacle is obstacle number 15. At obstacle 28, they have the spear. So if you're Nicole, you want to hang with Lindsay until you get to that spear to put pressure on her. That is her best chance to take this race away from Lindsay Webster.
Now, a big climb coming your way. This is mile 11, and at the top of this absolutely monstrous hill, which will have a kicker right here, level off briefly, and then kick up again, you'll see the A-frame cargo net. It is a very long climb, possibly the steepest, longest of this race.
And that is obstacle 21, and that is the last obstacle before that gauntlet of obstacles that come up in the last mile before the finish line.
Yeah, look at this gnarly terrain that they have going on right now, jumping over little creeks, very, very slick terrain, and then it kicks up dramatically, just very steep, incredibly hard to just run through. Drains the legs a lot, and it takes a lot of concentration, which also really is challenging. You could see Lindsay is pulling away in this. She likes this nasty stuff. She's good at running it.
And I got to give a shout-out right now to the Spartan staff as we see Ryan Kent hammering up this hill. This course, as we're watching it, has been incredibly easy to navigate with the eyes. It's so hard to navigate just this terrain, but then for the athletes, they don't want to ever make a mistake and run off course. It's been incredibly well-marked and a well-done job by the Spartan staff.
Well, that right now, Ryan Kent trying to hold on to a podium position with Ryan Woods in the lead. He's been out there all alone for most of the day, but the question is, can he hang on to it? He is closing in on the top of this climb, and at the top you'll see that structure. They'll go behind it. They'll hit an A-frame cargo net, and then as steep as this climb is up, they got to run down the side of this hill as well. It is a precarious, high-speed drop.
Quick check behind of what we're watching now is intermittent hiking and running. He's power hiking for a little bit to kind of like change the different muscle groups he's using, catch his breath a little while not losing ground, and then going into runs. If he's able to do that there, it shows that he's still fit and still running with ferocity.
Well, that's Ryan Kempson right now trying to work his way onto the podium as well. Always a strong contender, but this is a long race for him. He's doing very well in the Beast this year, but Robert Killian, your defending champion 2 times over, trying to pull him in, and he loves the steep climbs.
And he has 4th and 3rd right in his sights right there. So he is in podium position. We have a 3-way battle for 3rd place right now, and 2nd and 1st are not too far ahead of them.
No, not at all, and this is where things start to level out a little bit. We have Ryan Woods at the top of this climb. As we said, he goes behind. He's got an A-frame cargo net and then a huge descent, absolutely massive descent that he's got coming up. Now, again, this cargo net got him into trouble at the beginning of the year. He touched the vertical truss in the center on a race that he ended up having beaten Ryan Atkins by a 1/4 of a second. The judges ruled, the officials ruled that gave him a competitive advantage, and he was penalized 10 minutes for that. Dropped him all the way to 11th place, and that was the first race of the year. That pretty much set the tone for Ryan's entire year right there, and it's nice to see him sitting in first place in a race with stakes this high after all that he lost this year.
It's so great to have this championship series being able to turn the page on that other season. This race is a season alone by itself, and he's taking advantage of it. And now he has to take advantage of this hill because with Ryan Atkins, one of the world's best descenders, right behind him, he cannot give any ground on this descent.
You know, we haven't seen Ryan Atkins in a moment, so the question of how far behind he is unknown. But we know that Ryan Atkins can close gaps in a hurry. And again, we were talking about these steep kickers. Here's another one right here. This cargo net, very hard to climb, just slow going. And Lindsay Webster just eking away from Nicole Mericle right now. It's going to take a big effort from Nicole to hold her in her grasp.
Yeah, that cargo net's kind of sneaky. As you step in it, you push down and it takes away a lot of your momentum. You're almost better using the dirt underneath it, but because the dirt is so slick, the athletes are shying away from it, but that cargo net will drain the pop in their legs.
Yeah, and again, we have cameramen trying to climb this with one hand. Just keep that in mind.
And she has eyes on Lindsay Webster. Before she crested this hill, you could kind of see Lindsay Webster running away. So Nicole still has her in contact. And again, she has to do that until obstacle 28 when they approach that spear. If they could stay together, Nicole has got a shot.
Yeah, and that's the big thing for Nicole is keep her within an arm's length, because if she can get an opportunity to make Lindsay make a mistake, that's her opening that she needs. And this race is still close enough that one mistake from Lindsay and Nicole will take it. But the same could be the other way around. Nicole can't get overly excited, over eager, because she also has to run a flawless race to win.
To do that, she's got to take some chances, though. Without the risk, she's not going to get the reward.
I think the thing when we watch Lindsay Webster run is we assume she's not taking risks because she looks so comfortable, but she's taking risks on every descent, sharp corners. She does a very good job making up time in little places by taking little risks here and there.
Like most great athletes, they look like they're doing it effortlessly because their athleticism is so smooth that it makes the task look that much easier when it's really incredibly difficult to do.
Well, again, this is that steep, that rope climb that we were talking about, and the next to hit that is probably going to be Rebecca Hammond, followed by Faye Stenning.
And who knows where Ariel Fitzgerald is lurking? Was she able to navigate some of those obstacles? If she did fail, does she have the gas tank to pick it back up? We know she has that. It's just a matter of how many obstacles she possibly struggled on.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a good course for an athlete like her. Her ability to open up and run. This would be a bear place than, say, a Big Bear, where it's mostly about power hiking and descending. Those who have the abilities on treadmills, this is a good place for them to go.
And this sport continues to draw in some of the best endurance athletes in the world because they're getting tired of doing races where they're just running. They want to do something that challenges their bodies in more facets of their athleticism. This sport certainly does it.
Look at that change in the carry. So the new rule with the bucket carry is you can put the bucket on your shoulder, and Ryan Woods is straight up running this thing right now. This giant Spartan-shaped track that we've got going on this bucket carry, and he looks absolutely unfazed. Not having to hold it in front of him means he can spare his back and he can spare his grip.
Yeah, we saw this in Jacksonville. They actually shaped the whole bucket carry like the Spartan helmet logo that you see on the medals and all the branding. And he's the first athlete since 2013 that's been able to carry a bucket on his shoulders, and he's taking advantage of the new rule.
Yeah, he's really moving quick, and the nice thing for him is not having to put the pressure on his back means also putting less pressure on his hamstrings as well. And that hamstring was what cost him a lot of time earlier this year. As you can now see, Ryan Kent making his way over the inverted wall. Looks very smooth. And Ryan Kent, again, now 11 and a half, almost maybe 12 miles into this course, still running with that podium position. And this is just a magic course for him. It always works out well for him, and that's Ryan Atkins sitting in second position.
The inverted wall was just before this bucket carry, so Ryan Atkins in second, Ryan Kent is in third, and both of these men are absolute savages on the heavy carries, specifically this bucket, as now Ryan Woods has gone through and has a full bucket carry lead.
A whole bucket carry lead is probably about a minute and a half right now. That's a sizable lead, but there are a couple dangerous obstacles still looming, including the spear throw.
And that was a sizable smile and ponytail from Rebecca Hammond that we just saw running out of the woods.
She's always happy, always smiling. And now Ryan Kent saying, this is my chance. If there's ever a time that I could drop the carry of my life, it's chasing Ryan Atkins on a bucket.
Absolutely. And he is running now with power on this bucket carry.
I want to point out this really interesting technique that Ryan Kent is using. And some of the guys put the bucket over one shoulder. He's got it over his back shoulders, which should take pressure off his lower back. But he's gripping it with his fingers there. It's using a lot of tricep strength and a lot of grip strength to hold it in that position. And it seems a little bit awkward, like he could be dropped at any time. But he must have practiced this since the rule change. And we'll see if anybody else engages with that technique.
Bucket carry is obstacle 23. After that, we have pipe layer, bender, helix, rope climb. those are all obstacles that require grip strength. They're going to need a lot of grip strength for that tire today if they're going to be able to pinch grip it. So I hope he doesn't waste a lot of it on this bucket carry.
That's Rebecca Hammond right now making her way up that rope ladder that we've got right here. And she's using that hand-over-hand technique so that she's not wasting a ton of energy, but she's also stepping through the holes to the dirt to climb.
You also saw at the very top there a lot of hip mobility that just shows that she's still running fluid. The muscles aren't really tightening up. It gives you a good sense of where her mobility and her flexibility is right now, and that's really important for her to be able to run fast later.
Now that technique we mentioned with Ryan Kent's grip, Robert Killian is using that same technique, but we saw that Ryan Woods and Ryan Atkins went with the alternative technique with the bucket over one particular shoulder.
Those two athletes, Kent and Killian, are a little taller, maybe a little bit broader shoulders. Maybe that fits on their back a little bit better, but it's cool to see the different techniques these guys choose to use.
Well, Ryan Kent looks like he's about to take a little bit of nutrition for this one last surge, as the only stairs of the race are hit right now by Ryan Woods. He is making his way into that section of the race at the end, which is going to be a lot of wood, a lot of wooden planks, some sharp turns. It's almost like a little boardwalk around the river. There's a lot of opportunities to slip and fall around a sharp corner, so we're going to want to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, they're not going to want to take a lot of chances here. Right now, nor should he, because he's running with enough of a gap. If he's able to maintain it and hit the spear, he needs to be able to go into that tire with some more energy, and a slip and fall would certainly hurt him.
Well, that's Rebecca Hammond again, third place out there on the course, and she looks good again on this big descent. She's closing in on the end of this race, but Faye Stenning is still hunting her, and she's still trying to claw her way back into that top two spot with Nicole and Lindsay. But Ryan Woods is the name of the day right now, out there on the course, running in first position and looking like he's just out for a training run. How comfortable he looks right now.
He looks super comfortable, but if I'm Ryan Woods right now and if I know what's happened over the National Series, do you think in his head he's thinking, man, is this too good to be true? Am I actually going to be able to pull this off? Or am I going to crash and burn like some of the other opportunities this year?
It is distinctly possible. He's got a few things on his mind, including that spear throw that he missed in Alabama. As we see the pipe layer right here. This is pipe layer. Not super taxing, physically demanding obstacle, but you have to contract the body in a strange way that can cause a little bit of cramping if you're really, really fatigued. And here's your leader on the course, Lindsay Webster. Now, Lindsay is going to try and make some significant moves here to separate from Nicole in this last little section. Anywhere that's technical like this, she wants to gobble up that distance. She wants to put Nicole under duress, make her uncomfortable, make her run out of her comfort zone.
And here comes Army Ranger Robert Killian trying desperately to defend his championship that he's won here over the last 2 years, and he's going to have to make up ground quick in a hurry to do it.
He's got some work cut out for him because he's sitting in about 4th or 5th position right now. A lot of Ryans in front of him.
A lot of Ryans, but a lot of drama that still could unfold in front of us.
You're going to see potentially some big flip-flopping towards the end of this race because with a spear throw, a tire flip, a multi-rig, there's a lot of failable obstacles towards the end of this race. And this is Bender right now that you're seeing Ryan Woods make his way up in first place right now, trying to hold off a hard charge from Ryan Atkins and Ryan Kent and, of course, Ryan Kempson. A lot of guys in the mix right now.
Great thing in the position of obstacle, he's able to turn around and look up the slope and see who is coming at him.
And this is a lovely portion of the course, but again, a fast section for Lindsay Webster to really lay into those trails. There'll be some hairpins as she works her way down this thing. It's a little tougher than it looks because the trail is slightly slanted to the side. The footing's a little rockier than it appears on camera. If you were to look at it up close, you'd realize this is an incredible effort from her to put in this kind of pace in the downhill, and she is gaining fast on the men in front of her.
And you're looking at the calf muscles of one of our athletes right there powering up the hill. Nicole Mericle was a Division I runner at Rice. This is a person who was a savage competitor in college. She's taken it to OCR, and as Rebecca Hammond hammers up this hill, she may be a doctor, she may be a super smart person, but she is also a savage athlete in her own rights, and she's putting down one another best races of her career at this moment as well.
It's an incredibly steep climb. You can see the male athletes up ahead are resting on their climb up. Your calves feel like they're tearing in half as you climb up this thing. Your lower back can be seizing up. It's a lot of hamstring as well. And because it's such an anaerobic, like power effort with each step, you feel your energy just sap from those legs. They get incredibly heavy very quickly, which is why she's relying on this hands on the knees power hike to extend them to get herself up this climb.
You also get a chance to look at the diverse fitness of these athletes as Ryan Woods goes over the hurdles. They're not just fast, but they are strong. They have enough muscularity to do the courses as best they can. And here's two muscular, fit, incredible athletes neck and neck as Nicole Mericle just made that pass.
Huge pass by Nicole Mericle. She needed to take some risks. We talked about it before, and she made it on this descent. Anywhere where it's less technical, she's got to open up and use her superior speed, and that's a perfect example of this. And she's given herself a fighting chance in this race. And again, if she sets the tone and she sets the pace, maybe she could pull Lindsay out of that comfort zone that she seems to enjoy so much, so frequently in these races.
We talked about Lindsay constantly pushing her and never backing off. Lindsay Webster has just found out that Nicole Mericle will not back off either.
Well, they're working their way down this climb that Rebecca Hammond is climbing up right now, but Hammond is almost to the top of it, and she has just been gobbling up the men from the elite men's field on her way.
Here's that windy dock that you were talking about. At any moment, if they're running a little too fast, they could slide right off of that into the bushes. But what a scenic view here.
Well, the thing about that dock is, of course, athletes here are running with shoes with lugs. These trail running shoes have lugs on them, and if they're a little bit damp, a little bit muddy, when they touch wood, they basically slip off like ice skates. So it's a very difficult thing to run on wood, especially if that wood had been a little bit damp, like yesterday where it had rained so much. This would be a totally different section to run. Very precarious.
And the more athletes that run on it, the slicker it's going to get.
Well, right now, Lindsay Webster is battling herself to try and keep that first place position because she trails Nicole Mericle. They've gone back and forth all year long. Nicole won the first 2 races of the U.S. National Series. Lindsay won the next 3 to steal the title from her. And Nicole may be looking for a little bit of payback as they hop over the tabletop right there.
Those are the Irish tables, and a very savvy move not to use those porta potties either, because that would have taken a ton of time as well.
Yeah, it's very savvy indeed. So Lindsay Webster somehow back in front, making just a couple seconds gain. But look for Nicole to, again, take that psychological advantage, bomb the downhill, seize the lead back. This is going to be a back and forth probably all the way until the end. They've got that big swim ahead of them. Don't forget about that.
They do, and Lindsay Webster has not been in the lake training as much as Ryan Atkins, her husband, has, because she is not going on this big kind of eco-challenge race that's happening in Fiji. She's been doing more mountain running, so this is something we haven't seen her do since Tahoe.
It's interesting to note that it looks like the women in this field, the top 2 right there, Nicole and Lindsay, are running at essentially the exact same pace that you're seeing the top men run at. And it's a testament, one, to their talent, but also to their staying power, their ability to sustain pace. It's been studied that women actually, as races get longer, close that gap that they have with men in terms of the physiological differences and how much faster men are than women. That gap closes, and these 2 in particular, often in a race this long, are faster than the majority of the men in the men's field.
And don't be surprised, with that said, that some of the women come in with times that are in the top 10 overall for the day as Ryan Woods approaches the rope climb, which is obstacle number 27 right before the spear throw.
Yeah, little rope climb right here. Hopefully no issues. The key is, of course, to jump to cover as much ground as possible before starting your climb. It looks like he's working with a little J-hook technique. Easy tap to the bell, using his legs to help him climb the rope rather than just his arms, saving his hands and his upper body strength. And look at this. The 2 women are going to be heading into the water neck and neck. They must be fully buckled before they enter.
Putting on the life vest was the only problem Lindsay's had so far today. And if you notice with Ryan Woods with that J-hook, Very, very savvy move right there, using his feet as much as he can. He's strong enough to hand over hand that, but knowing that the tire is coming up after that, he's trying to save those bicep and back muscles for the tire flip.
Precisely. It's one of the last obstacles that can really throw a wrench in your race. This is the other one, the spear throw right here. Woods missed this in Alabama, and it really cost him. For him, a year that has been just so dismantled by a few little mistakes. Can he be perfect? Yes, Woods has nailed the spear. Woods is off and going. It's really just a couple small obstacles between him and the finish. The Yokohama tire flip, probably the most daunting. The multi-rig, of course. And he's going to have himself a title, so he has to be running hard but still cautious at the same time.
To review the tire flip now, the rule used to be they could keep their hands underneath it for the first flip. We would have the athletes lower the tire down with control onto their hands so they wouldn't have to readjust their grip for the second flip. They're no longer allowed to do that. They have to completely disengage from the tire and then reset their hands. So if Ryan Woods gets this obstacle, it's only because he's been able to get a pinch grip or his hands underneath twice, which is very difficult to do.
He is not far from that obstacle at all right now as he's working his way into the final festival area. Looking back to see how close is Ryan Atkins behind me. He knows he's chasing, and if it's anything like normal Ryan Atkins, he knows he's closing as well. This is a critical time for Ryan Woods. He can't take his foot off the gas pedal.
He will be able to do this tire and look across the lake to see what men are at the spear as he's doing this. So if he's able to get this first flip after the second one, he will be able to check those positions of the other men.
No problem getting under this thing. For many, it's getting the fingers under that's the big problem with this flip. Then a quick deadlift, walk it through. The tire, again, must go completely to the ground. And now the backside of that tire is slick and nasty because of the rain that we had yesterday.
He's desperately trying to find a spot underneath there. He just looked.
The second flip is way harder.
Watch his hands right now. That's what's called a pinch grip, where you put the hands on top of each other. He's trying to use the side and the undulations of the tire to try to use friction to get it up. He can't find that spot yet, though.
This is going to be a very tough thing. This tire's about 400 pounds. Ryan's managed to get his fingers under it, but now he has to get around to the side of the tire to flip it back the direction it came from. Ryan's out. I mean, this is huge.
Successful completion, and the other athletes in front of him just saw it. Now it is a race to the multi-rig.
And right now you're seeing a push from the women's race. Lindsay Webster and Nicole Mericle trying to separate from one another on the swim.
This swim is about 150 to 200 meters long, using now every single muscle in your body, and with water coming up into your face and that life vest pushing up on you, it makes it that much harder to breathe. Woo! As the rabbit goes down, but back on his feet and right back on Rebecca Hammond.
Wow, and this just goes to show you just how challenging this terrain is for these athletes out here, trying to fix that camera, get it back on Hammond, and close the gap on her again. And this is the rolling mud. So as Ryan Woods is the only athlete away from the tire flip so far, he's going to have to take on this rolling mud. It's got a barbed wire crawl between each of these mud pits and sprinklers on it. And when he comes out the other side, there's a slip wall with very short ropes. So he's going to have to run up it with wet, muddy feet.
The ropes at the end are only about 2 feet long, and with those wet, muddy feet on the slick wall, we have seen athletes in the past struggle at a slip wall such as this.
It is a very failable obstacle, but first, of course, the final dunk wall. As he comes out of this and as he comes out of that little roll on the barbed wire, he's going to have to hard charge this slip wall if he wants to get up it in one smooth effort. We've actually seen athletes have to burpee out on this obstacle when the ropes are this short.
We saw it in Big Bear last year. We saw it in Utah last year. This is the first time they've faced an obstacle with a short rope this late in the year, and we're going to see how Ryan Woods does on it.
And the mud is probably as big a factor as anything because you don't feel confident with your ability to hard charge up this slip wall.
There's not much room for a runway.
Ryan's managed to
just get the bottom of the knot.
Just barely get himself up to that knot. Big quality reach. Now, down the backside, there is not much standing between Ryan Woods and a championship. For the North American Championship title is his if he can make it through this last section of running and a multi-rig.
That multi-rig is difficult today. The very end of it is a bar to 2 very thin ropes and then a ring. These athletes a lot of times like to skip those ropes and swing through with the rings. They will not be able to do that today. They have to engage those short, slick ropes, and grip strength at the very end of the race is going to be difficult and at a premium.
There is a knot at the bottom, so if you reach for it, you want to get the bottom of your palm right above that knot so it can pressure into your hand, help your grip just a little bit, and maybe get him through that last little bit on that multi-rig. But this is Rebecca Hammond right now, running in third position, heading down toward the water as coming out of the water, neck and neck, the battle for first place. Nicole Mericle just steps in front of Lindsay Webster as they work to get their life jackets off and start this final section of running, heading into the final 2.5 miles of this race.
These are like 2 prize fighters going into the 10th round of a heavyweight championship fight, and nobody is giving any ground. They're up in each other's grills and trading blows all the way from the beginning, now all the way through the end.
It's going to be a huge challenge now for Lindsay Webster, actually, to hold off Nicole Mericle. The majority of the running that remains is very flat and fast, but there is that one huge hill that they will face before heading into that A-frame cargo net.
And a few huge obstacles looming after that.
Some big ones. The spear throw, obviously massive. The tire flip could be huge, although we tend to see the men struggle with that more than the women. There's a Hercules hoist, there's a rope climb, but that spear throw scares us. Big
really
time.
does. We saw what happened in Utah with so many of the ladies vying for that position for spots in the national series. As we get back to that in a minute, as you take Ryan Woods through the rig.
Ryan Woods making the transition to the pipe right here, and then it's those 2 Tarzan ropes that he's going to have to get with the knots. Oh, he's going to do a little bit of struggle. If he can get to that ring, he's safe. And there you have it as he heads now to the vertical cargo net. He's got to get over the tabletop and up the vertical cargo.
The most important part for him right now is working on the celebration, because as soon as he gets over this race is in the bag.
Now, Ryan Woods, for all the adversity that he's faced this year after winning a championship in the National Series last year, he had a rough year, but now a chance to celebrate, because Ryan Woods is going to come across the line. Your champion, North American Championship title is yours, Ryan Woods. You earned it. You deserve it. And quite a finish for Ryan Woods, your champion on the day.
I said that his national series was a dumpster fire. He just steps over the fire and becomes a champ today and representing America.
Yeah, an incredible performance and a lot of redemption for a guy that had a time penalty in his first race, a missed spear in his second race, an injury withdrawal in his third race of the year. He just didn't have anything go his way this year, but now he has a championship to his name.
And Ryan Atkins showing the incredible grip strength as he's coming through in second place position right now, easily navigating these ropes and hits the bell without even using the ring.
He's the most consistent racer in the sport. He's been second place or better in every race of the National Series and North American Championships this year. He just manages to always get it done. Ryan Atkins, you're looking at one of the greatest of all time. There's no such thing as an off day for this man. And you know he wanted to win this race this year, but second place is a fantastic showing for an incredible athlete. Ryan Atkins, second place in the North American Championships.
And a fantastic finish to this race, and he is setting this up for the World Championship in Lake Tahoe, and that's the one that he really wants desperately.
I'd say for most of us out here, you have to assume that he's a guaranteed lock for the podium at the World Championships, still seeking that elusive first-place finish. He has 4 runner-up finishes at the World Championships.
And a big flex and a chest bump with Ryan Woods, just showing again the camaraderie that makes this sport so very special.
Right now, Nicole Mericle with a nice little gap heading into the Herc hoist on Lindsay Webster, and in the men's race, Ryan Kent was third last time we saw, with Kempson right on his heels, as well as Robert Killian and a number of others. But how are things going to shake out?
That battle for third is one of the most interesting battles we've seen all day, so I'm interested to see how it pans out.
Well, again, we're looking at that hoist. Critical that Nicole Mericle, again, escape here with as much cushion as possible, because we know the closing abilities that Lindsay Webster has, especially with that big climb looming.
Yeah, again, this is at mile 11, so there's not much after this. After that climb, it is Lindsay Webster's wheelhouse to sprint down that hill. So Nicole Mericle better put in the work now.
It's a 5-second gap, and that's all. And we see how steep this is. 5 seconds can disappear in a matter of moments on a climb like this. If you lose your momentum even briefly, if you come up for air, you have your issues. You can catch her fast. And that is Ryan Kempson coming out of nowhere to seize 3rd place, a podium spot in the North American Championships, and of course a thrilling finish for him. We've got to ask the question, what happened to Ryan Kent?
Well, we just found out it happened at the tire. Robert Killian and Ryan Kent struggled. They're 2 bigger, stronger athletes, but Ryan Kempson made it through clean and took over 3rd place, and we don't know where Killian and Kent are yet.
Well, there's our answer. That's Robert Killian celebrating at the top of the vertical cargo net. A little somersault over the top, and now Robert Killian, he's won this race twice before. He's going to have to settle for 4th place today. No podium finish for him. But you know what? A great showing. Robert Killian showing he is ready to compete for the World Championship in Tahoe at the end of next month. Taking home 4th position today.
Yeah, the throne was taking him from today, but he is still a champion. He treated as such, and the crowd treated him as such as he was celebrating with him at the top. But we got to talk about Ryan Kempson, who was in 2nd position for much of the early part of the race, fell all the way back into 5th or worse, and then battled all the way back into her 3rd place. Incredible comeback
Gutsy.
with this field.
What a gutsy showing out of him. And speaking of gutsy, look what we have right here, the final major ascent of the day. And you have Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster going head-to-head. And Nicole Mericle's boyfriend right here, that's Aaron Newell, sneaking into 5th position in the North American Championships. That's an amazing showing out of Aaron Newell, who has got to be thrilled, closing down and taking in 5th. And a very unfortunate ending to Ryan Kent's day, that this is how it went down for him, but great day for Aaron Newell. So Newell taking that 5th spot, Robert Killian in 4th, Ryan Kempson in 3rd, Ryan Atkins settles for 2nd, but your champion on the day, Ryan Woods, and for more with him, the 3rd member of our team, Steve Hammond.
Well, thanks, guys. Ryan, you've had a bit of a tough season this year, but you've really come through, and this is a massive win for you. What does it mean for you to win this and going into Tahoe?
Yeah, it's been a rough year. I was U.S. Series champion last year, and I thought I defended this year, and I just had, the trust incident, an injury, and then just a bad race in Utah. So it's been really bad, but it's all that motivated me and really made me work hard on my fitness coming in today. And this is the 2nd biggest race of the year. And I took home the title. I've got a U.S. Series title now. I've got the North American title, and there's one title left to get, the World Championships.
Well, speaking of titles, Lindsay Webster, who's got 2 world titles to her name and numerous U.S. National Series titles, also a North American Championship title, is competing to get one more, and that's Nicole Mericle looking for her first still, a title of any kind in the Spartan sport, because right now Lindsay Webster is trying to just seize them all, stash them all, keep them all for herself.
Yet Ryan Woods referenced the career Spartan trifecta, U.S. National Series, North American Championship Series, and Tahoe. He wants to get that. Lindsay Webster right now holds a single season trifecta, doing that last year, and is trying to double up and do it this year. But Nicole Mericle is eager to take that away from her.
It's like the Tiger Slam right now that she's going for. And right now, somehow, she's managed to get away from Nicole Mericle. That's a gap forming right there, and it wasn't where we expected. It wasn't on the big climb. It happened on a little downhill here. And now the bucket carry will be critical.
Huge win for Nicole Mericle to hang with Lindsay up to this point. We thought that maybe Lindsay could have dropped Nicole on that downhill, but now they are neck and neck on the bucket, and that means they have the chance and the opportunity to be together on that spear throw just coming up.
This is an absolutely insane battle. You don't see competition like this 12 miles into a Spartan race where they have not created an inch of separation from one another, where each has led for an equal amount of time and where neither has shown a single sign of weakness.
For over 90 minutes, they have been trading blows and not backing off. The mental and physical fortitude that takes is just incredible.
Well, Rebecca Hammond has just climbed up one of the steep sections of this course, and now a moment to run before it kicks up again. She's on the final big climb of this day.
We talked about Ryan Woods being very savvy and having to make sure that he kept pushing when really in a couple spots nobody else was around him. It seems like Rebecca Hammond has been running alone in third place for the majority of this race, having only herself to push herself. That is so hard in itself.
This is a sport where you can get isolated out there by yourself on your own, and it's so critical that you continue to maintain that sense of urgency as you see her alternating between that power hike and getting back to that run. You have to find a way to push yourself right to that verge of your red line limits without blowing up and without becoming complacent. And still, side by side, first and second place, Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster, as Nicole now surges into the lead.
And Nicole has the inside track on the, now actually they got to go single file. Because Nicole took the inside track and the way that's curving, it gave her the lead just by position. Now Lindsay has to work harder on the outside if she wants to pass her.
Look
and
at that
Nicole would not
acceleration.
let her.
That was a little acceleration, very savvy vet move, trying to keep her from getting around. She knows I need to dictate the terms of how this bucket carry goes down. And Lindsay trying to respond as well as they close in on the bottom of the first half of this bucket. They work their way through the entire Spartan helmet shape. And again, you're going to look for Lindsay to try and make a pass on this uphill.
Nicole better close it in tight. Actually, she went to the proper side because they're going to turn now to the left. But if Nicole had given up that ground, Nicole now would be 5 feet in front of her and not the opposite.
And again, a lot of this is just psychological battle. It's just showing I'm not weak right now. I feel very strong. I feel very good. And I'm also not going to let you have control of this thing. I want to keep it for myself.
Just the presence of mind that Nicole Mericle showed right there just shows you how intelligent that these athletes are and how savvy and veteran they've been throughout the course of not only this race but in their careers.
Another quick descent, they're going to open up their stride. When you are competing neck and neck and you're trying to hold someone off for the entirety of a race, it requires a ton of concentration and it requires a ton of willpower. One of the things is when you're off and you could just run and get a rhythm, that's one thing. But every single step these two are taking, they are competing, and it's just taking a lot of energy out of them.
And a lot of energy spent right there. There was a little confusion, and Nicole was able to take advantage of it actually after Lindsay had gone out first. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but that wastes a lot of mental and emotional energy and creates frustration with these two athletes.
Now, when they get to the top of this climb, it's going to bank left, keep going up. That's where they'll hit that staircase, and then there's an actual open, flat section of running. And there, that's Nicole's favorite bread and butter section. Lindsay's got her work cut out for her if she's going to make up the time. We're looking at a spear throw that might be the difference in this race.
If Nicole could get there a little bit faster to the spear, it allows her to take more of her time. It allows her to lower her heart rate. She could have a couple extra seconds to hit that spear. It could give her such an advantage because Lindsay is going to have to rush after that if she wants to keep up.
Well, Nicole Mericle has stretched herself a little lead. She took advantage of a little bit of directional snafu for Lindsay. But Nicole is hitting the part where it levels out. Watch her speed kick in before she hits pipe layer up here.
I don't know whose adrenaline is kicking more, theirs or mine right now, because this is fun, man.
Yeah, this is definitely fun. This is as close a battle as we have seen in any beast race in recent memory. Usually these things get so spread out because someone just has a good day or someone has an off day. But right now, you're watching the two best females in the sport going head-to-head, and neither of them is given an inch.
It's safe to say that the miles they're running right now might even be faster than the miles they were running early in the race. They are flying.
Well, Nicole Mericle hits this obstacle first, but this is one that can actually take a little bit of time. If you choose the wrong route through those pipes, it can slow you down. You could see Nicole head first, Lindsay feet first, and they come out in a virtual tie.
Lindsay hit that bell just a little bit earlier, and again, another counter punch to Nicole's excellent effort on the bucket.
Look at that acceleration from Lindsay Webster. She's trying to kick from distance. She knows that Nicole has superior top speed, so she's got to hurt her wherever she can before they get towards that final finish.
Lindsay's background is a cross-country skier. Nicole's background is as a 1,500-meter runner at Rice University. It's a very good Division I track program, and she is now kicking in front of a track athlete and doing it with fearlessness.
And again, we're talking 12.5 miles into this race at this point. This is 1 mile to the finish tops, probably even a little bit less. Now is where it's gut check time. This is about who wants it more and really nothing else. The two of them are really at their limits. If they had anything more, they would have already thrown it at the other person. So now it comes down to who's got the legs.
To go back to that Rocky reference again with him and Apollo Creed, this is them just slugging it out, and whoever gets off the mat first is going to win the championship today.
This is something special that you're watching right now. Nicole Mericle has got to put on a hard charge right now because Lindsay Webster has counterpunched her once again. And as they head into this little descent right here, this is the chance to use the last little bit of speed in your race. They're going to head around this corner and into that wooden plank boardwalk section. That is a fast section of the course.
It really picks up. And when they get down to this rope climb, it's going to be a race to kind of hit that bell and get to the spear first. But Lindsay Webster is taking advantage of this small hill right now to do whatever she can to hold off Nicole Mericle.
She's so good on these descents. And Lindsay Webster looks as fresh as ever right now. And that is definitely a little bit of separation, Foreman. That's mile 12, possibly even more. And we are right near the finish of this race. Heading into the woods, Nicole knows any little technical spots like this is what Lindsay craves. This is what she wants. I need to hug right on her heels.
And Lindsay right now also could use the money. Her and her husband, Ryan Atkins, just bought a new house. They could use that extra money for some renovations, so that's got to be running through her head as well.
So Nicole Mericle chasing Lindsay Webster, both seeking that top podium spot, and that is a fall from Nicole Mericle, and that is not good for her towards the end of this race. Let's hope she's okay. She's got to put herself back together and open up and maintain that tempo she was throwing down before.
Physically, she looks fine, but psychologically, that has to be devastating. She's been putting in so much work to keep up with Lindsay, and now because of that fall, she's just given up about a 15-second gap.
Yeah, she's definitely an entire length of bender behind now. How quickly can she make her way over the top? And does she have the speed left in her legs to close here at the end? A tough break for Nicole Mericle. That created the separation that she did not want to see at this point in the race. And now it's going to be all about, can she claw her way back into this race? And will Lindsay Webster hit that spear throw coming up?
This is one of those championship moments. Literally, how bad do you want it? You're going to have to put in more work and endure more suffering than you probably ever had if you want to snatch this away from Lindsay Webster.
We're heading into that boardwalk section of the race right now. This is going to be about speed, and that's good news for Nicole because she is great at the speed work. That is her sweet spot, her bread and butter, and she's going to have to work that entire section.
So we have Rebecca Hammond on the bucket. It is probably about a 4-minute difference between her and Nicole Mericle and Lindsay Webster right now. The question is, how far is the fourth-place athlete behind Rebecca? And she's going to be able to see whoever that is while she's on this bucket carry.
Well, we've seen Faye Stenning sitting in fourth position for the majority of the day. Rebecca Hammond has held steady in third position. It's been a lonely day for her. It's been a lonely day for Faye Stenning. And each of them wants that final podium spot. And the question, of course, what we asked, how far back is Faye? Does she have a charge left in her? And we know this is Rebecca's first race back. Can her legs hold up for these final couple miles?
Well, this bucket carry is really showing it. She's moving it through very smooth. Looks like that ankle's fine on those tight turns as she's coming down with that heavy bucket. And here's Nicole Mericle approaching the hurdle. She's going to have to get a little boost over this.
That's a big separation that Lindsay Webster has just formed. She's putting her finishing kick on from easily 3/4 of a mile out from the finish. She wants to end this race now.
And she got to see exactly where Nicole Mericle was and that she has a little bit more of a gap on her that she had in the woods.
That fall was everything in this race. These athletes were not separated by more than 2 seconds before that fall. And you could see that Nicole's confidence has been shaken right now, and Lindsay's is absolutely swelling.
In years past, many of the women in that field could absorb 60 burpees, 90 burpees, and still win a race. The level of athleticism and precision has raised to such a bar right now that a simple slip is now what separates first place from second place going into the final obstacles.
And that's, again, Rebecca Hammond sitting in third place. She's not in it for this final push, but you know who is? Nicole Mericle may be making one final attack to try and win this race, to win her first championship title, because Lindsay Webster is trying to win her 3rd North American championship.
And go after that coveted double trifecta of holding all 3 of those titles in one season. Remarkable.
Absolutely remarkable. And you can see Rebecca Hammond is just at her limits as compared to Lindsay Webster, who looks so smooth right now. Absolutely flying through these final couple turns on this boardwalk. Up and out and into the spear throw is next.
After running through all that undulating terrain, being able to run on these docks must be such a welcome feeling on their feet as she's back up into the grass, and Nicole is still hot on her heels. She is not backing off as she's flying past these other runners.
We're looking at about a 15 to 16 second gap between them right now, possibly even as much as 20. Not insurmountable, but starting to get dangerous if you're Nicole Mericle. And again in pipe layer, this is Rebecca Hammond. She hasn't done this obstacle very much. It's kind of a strange technique, but the legs first is what Lindsay Webster did, and it seemed to work pretty well for her as well. And as she comes out, her key is just don't blow up now. So close to the end, don't blow up.
Lindsay is about 12 and a half miles into this race right now as she's hitting the helix.
And helix is a dangerous obstacle because that plexiglass can actually be very slippery. She's got to be very cautious with where her foot placement is, especially on those lower sections. Staying high on this thing can be absolutely key to avoiding mistakes because a slip, at least you don't have to worry about stubbing a toe on the ground and getting called for failure, but no problems from Lindsay Webster here.
Not something that's going to really tax you that physically, especially because at this time of day it wasn't really wet or muddy, but it does tax your concentration. It does drain a little bit of that mental energy and takes your focus off of things like the spear. But if you're on this and you're thinking about the spear, it allows you more opportunities to possibly fail. And she just went down from that a little bit differently. It just looks like she's not feeling the same as she did before that fall.
Yeah, your legs look a little bit jelly right now if you're Nicole Mericle, but she's only 15 seconds back. It's not over yet. She's still managing to turn over with some high tempo, and still, the spear could change everything. And Lindsay Webster is approaching that right now. She's got a rope climb first, and then with heavy arms, the spear coming right afterward. This rope climb, she needs to conserve energy, use her legs the best she can.
Just like Ryan Woods, executing a J-hook is only going to take 3 pulls to get to the top of that bell. Incredibly efficient, lowers herself down with control, didn't risk going down too fast and burning and blistering her hands on the rope. Now she's running to that spear knowing that if she can hit that, she's in the driver's seat for the North American Championship.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing here is Nicole is still close, and as long as she is, Lindsay knows that the pressure's on her. Lindsay controls her destiny right now. If she wants to win this championship, she's really just a spear away.
That's a great point because even with that fall, any mishap by Lindsay, she would only be about 5 to 10 burpees in while Nicole is able to get a throw off.
And there's not enough ground for Lindsay to make up anything on her unless Nicole made a mistake as well. So right here, this really could be the determining factor in this race. And don't forget, it's pace of throw as well. Lindsay is trying to throw quick today. And a really nice strike right down the center of the pipe. Lindsay Webster's nailed the spear, and now it's just about half a mile and a championship to her name if she can hold off Nicole Mericle right now, who also must hit this spear to have a shot.
You want to talk about like doing well under pressure? Lindsay Webster used to routinely miss the spear. It was her worst obstacle. She just stepped up to that and in no time drilled the spear perfectly in the middle, and that was probably the best spear throw I've ever seen her throw in her life, and to do it under those stakes was remarkable.
And you could see, taking her time, being very cautious, Nicole Mericle. Nailed it. That was huge that she nailed that. She's still got a shot. She's still in this thing, but now it's the run of her life is the only way she's going to be able to pull Lindsay Webster back. She is running out of real estate real fast, and Lindsay shows no signs of weakness.
Going back to that one slip and fall, there was possibly 2 seconds that separated.
Yeah,
when she went down, it became 15 seconds. Now you're seeing a lead that's probably about 45 seconds. How did Lindsay Webster put such a gap in Nicole in that time?
Well, when that fall happened, you could see she came up a little bit lame, a little bit slow, and didn't have the confidence. Now, the separation still was only about 20 seconds at that spear throw, so nothing is over yet. But 2 easy flips, the gap has grown at the spear itself. Lindsay threw quicker than Nicole did.
One thing that's a little different that we saw from the men, though, that slip wall. The ladies are less explosive and have more of a difficult time getting that high up on the wall, and particularly with wet shoes. This moment right here, of what we've seen in the past, could have a flip. So this is no gimme at all.
Well, into the barbed wire out of the first section of rolling mud. That's Lindsay Webster, and her lead seems to have grown to about that 45 seconds you mentioned before.
David Magida, in Big Bear last year, we saw athletes that were right at the front spending 2 to 3 minutes at that slip wall. So anything could happen right here.
Yeah, and it looks like, strangely enough, a little bit of struggle with that tire flip, but Nicole is in and out. She's on her way into the rolling mud, but now she needs some help. She needs Lindsay Webster to make a mistake, to either struggle on that slip or to make a mistake on that multi-rig. And that's wishful thinking with the way Lindsay has been on obstacles this year.
The great thing about Spartan Race, it's never over until you cross the finish line. Anything could happen.
Well, she's going to have to up that sense of urgency to have any chance now, because Lindsay Webster is running like a woman possessed. And Nicole Mericle looks like she's going to be satisfied with second place if she doesn't drop a little bit of extra hustle into this thing.
That's actually, if you can see it right now, it looks like she's kind of conceding it, but you never stop pushing. Lindsay Webster can make a mistake, and Nicole Mericle needs to continue to push to take advantage of it if it happens.
It's been a long day, but at the same time, there is still a chance.
If you've worked this hard, you might as well work a little bit harder and try to sneak away a reward. She could still steal this race.
So Nicole Mericle trying to close that gap on Lindsay Webster, who just seems to just have a little bit more in the tank today. Lindsay Webster over by that slip wall already, and Nicole Mericle approaching it now. 2 obstacles left on the day. The slip wall, after this rolling mud pit, you have the slip wall, you have the multi-rig, and then, of course, yes, not to mention, so 3 obstacles, the vertical cargo net. But the failable ones are right here in front of them.
Yeah, those obstacles right there, and there is Lindsay Webster running away, so she definitely executed the slip wall. And Ryan Atkins is cheering her on. There's her husband who followed her down course to give her a couple flexes and let her know that he's there for her and to cheer her on.
Wow, an incredible performance by Ryan Atkins. Always runs back onto the course to make sure that his wife knows that he is there and ready. And a big charge and reach. And there is what we talked about right there, Kev. A hard slip wall to get up. And she's going to have to pull herself back together and make another charge at this, because this is the opening that Rebecca Hammond was hoping for.
Exactly. Rebecca Hammond is still looming, and we've seen athletes spend a tremendous amount of time here. Oh,
what
just gets the bottom of the knot.
Huge reach. That's a massive grab by Nicole Mericle. She's out of the woods on this obstacle, and really the only thing standing in her way from second place is, of course, that multi-rig. She's a very sure-handed athlete.
That move required a ton of power and explosion. Every attempt that she would have made after that would have been so much more difficult to complete. That could have gone downhill and really bad in a quick way there, so she's very fortunate she got it on that second try.
But let's talk about this amazing woman right here. This is Lindsay Webster. She's managed to win 2 world championships in the last 2 years, 2 North American championships in the last 2 years, 3 U.S. National Series championships in the last 3 years, and by the end of this race today, she's going to hold her 3rd North American championship in as many tries. All she has to do is get through this multi-rig obstacle.
Look, we're going to have to come up with some acronyms, because every time we talk about her accomplishments, it just takes way too long. So
just in the last month, the list has gone up.
It's getting ridiculous. So Lindsay, just to put it in reference, she used to fail this obstacle routinely. She used to never be able to even do a bar traverse. She's worked incredibly hard to fill in her entire obstacle game. Things like this were, for a while, guaranteed 30 burpees, and now she just completed it with the greatest of ease and actually executed that better than Ryan Woods.
Unbelievable how quickly she made it through that. She pulled herself all the way up. You can see she's been working on her pull-up game, and now Lindsay Webster is about to seize the third North American Championship title. She just keeps on winning, representing Canada. The Americans just cannot take it from the Canadians in the women's field, because right here, Lindsay Webster has claimed the North American Championship for the 3rd year in a row, and she is going into Tahoe, the heavy favorite for her 3rd title there as well. Lindsay Webster winning another one.
Take a bow, Lindsay. Yeah, claim it whatever way you want. Take a seat. Somebody give her a massage, get her a drink. But she is a champ, and she is celebrating as such. And listen, we got to hand it to Nicole Mericle here, who, again, one of the best climbing and grip strength athletes. She's not going to have a problem here, but kudos to her. She finished 2nd in the North American Championship in 2017. She finished 3rd right behind Rebecca last year. And here she is going to stand on the podium, you know, barring the impossible failure here.
She's just so
for the
consistent.
3rd straight year.
So consistent, and what we're seeing out of her is she seems to be the only person in the world right now with the ability to go toe-to-toe with Lindsay Webster and have a chance. And had this race ended at mile 12, she would have won. Who knows? Might have been her day. But instead, she's going to have to settle for 2nd, regroup, and aim for Tahoe, because at Lake Tahoe, the World Championships, Nicole Mericle has put Lindsay Webster on notice. I'm coming for you.
200 qualified women athletes stood at the start line today. For her to consistently be in the top 3 in almost every single one of these races, year after year, is remarkable. She should hold her head up high. She has lost nothing today. She just added to her own legacy as well.
She is one of the best female obstacle racers in history.
Remember in Seattle how much difficulty she had? She failed that 3 times. After a 13-mile race, she just made that look with ease. From race to race, she just gets better at everything.
And there we have it, Nicole Mericle running in to a 2nd place finish at the North American Championships. 3rd last year, but 2nd this year, and looking to add to her resume, maybe with a world championship at the end of the year. Nicole Mericle, 2nd place on the day. And it's disappointing, of course, but at the same time, 2nd place is nothing to be upset about when it's a great champion like Lindsay Webster that took it. But again, great battle between the two of them, and a lot to look forward to in the upcoming years and the rest of this season.
Nicole forced Lindsay to race with absolute perfection. And here we have Rebecca Hammond, the breakout masterful performance at this very race last year. At this time last year, nobody knew who she was. She was an anomaly. She was a stranger. Now it looks like she's going to take the podium for the 2nd year in a row, and as she has taken the OCR world by storm, she has taken another podium here today in West Virginia.
It's an amazing performance. Out for the entire year, doesn't phase her at all. She goes through these obstacles like it's just easy child's play. And here she goes over the final obstacle of the day, that vertical cargo net. Once she finishes it, she's going to have claimed her 3rd podium finish in a championship race in as many attempts, which is actually unbelievable, unprecedented. Rebecca Hammond, 3rd place today in the North American Championships. What a return, and look out Lake Tahoe, because here comes Hammond.
Never has a 3rd place performance put more fear into the athletes around her than this one today.
This is Rebecca Hammond minus a full season of training. Just wait until she gets a season under her belt.
She's got 1 more month to get it in the can, get that fitness ready for the World Championships in Lake Tahoe.
Top 3 women as anticipated. Lindsay Webster, Nicole Mericle, and Rebecca Hammond, and Faye Stenning chasing right behind. And again, as we look into the final top 5, Ariel Fitzgerald did manage to slip into the top 5 there. Faye Stenning in 4th, Rebecca Hammond in 3rd, Nicole Mericle in 2nd, and Lindsay Webster in 1st, and with Lindsay Webster, Steve Hammond.
Well, Lindsay Webster, you did it again. You held off Nicole on this epic of a course. You keep winning. You know, I've asked you this before, what is your secret? But there must be something in your training plan. You're crushing all the trail races as well. What's going on, Lindsay Webster?
Actually, I didn't think today was going to be my day. I thought she was going to take this one from me, and then you never know. Like, some days you have those really good mental days, and I think we were a couple miles from the finish, and I was like, no, like, I was just really into racing, and I wanted to just leave everything out there that I had, and when I kind of turned that on, I guess it was enough to sort of like drop her a little bit, and I think she also started cramping, so that helps, unfortunately.
You guys ran together for most of the course. course. Where did you break from her? Because you finished only about 30 seconds, maybe a minute ahead. Not even that.
So yeah, I mean, she was leading for the first half, and then once we hit about mile 7, then I leaded through that woodsy section, and then we were together at the swim, and I think I finally broke away from her on that whole staircase section where you run up the staircase and then we run down the ramps, and I was like going around the railings. Yeah, it's hard to kind of explain to her, but that's kind of where I...
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, you're a winner today. You must be so proud of yourself. Going into Tahoe, you must be extremely excited.
I'm really excited for Tahoe. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm nervous for it, but I'm glad we have a month off, sort of recoup a little bit and refocus, and yeah, can't wait.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. And of course, your women's podium finishers, Rebecca Hammond, Nicole Mericle, and Lindsay Webster, your North American champion once again. And on the men's side, Ryan Kempson, Ryan Atkins in second, and Ryan Woods claiming your North American championship for the men. An incredible showing this year at the North American Championships in West Virginia. For Steve Hammond, for Kevin Donahue, I'm David Magida, and we'll see you in Lake Tahoe.